NFL today as 4 teams gave their coaches the axe. Arizona fired Jonathan Gannon. The Raiders fired Pete Carroll. Cleveland fired Kevin Stefanski, and Atlanta got rid of Raheem Morris. They joined the Titans and the Giants, who both fired their head coaches earlier in the season. Arizona held on to the number 1 spot over a fast closing Michigan team in the newest AP Top 25 poll, making it one of the closest races in the 78-year history of the poll. The Wildcats received 32 of 61 first place votes, while Wolverines scooped up the other 29 first place votes, keeping it 1 point difference from being only the second tie ever in the history of the poll. Oregon State and Virginia tied in 1981. For victims of drunk and drugged driving, your grief is unique, but you are not alone. You will always have a place at MAD. Call the 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
All right, San Diego, Southern California, what's going on? John Schaefer, Brent Sperry with you until 6 p.m. It is a new year. We do want to wish you a happy new year here on San Diego Sports 760. Brent will get a kick out of this. So obviously Jim's gone. Spoiler alert.
I have noticed.
If you haven't been here for the last week, Jim's last show was a week ago today. Is that right? It feels like forever ago. So a week ago today, Jim bailed, which, again, we knew about for a couple of months. Our listeners didn't know about until a few weeks ago. So Jim's out. He moved to Philadelphia. He discussed the reasons as to why. Family and personal matters, which we completely respect. What's so interesting here, and there's a lot of different tentacles to this that we'll get to over the course of the next 4 hours. Of course, he moves to Philadelphia and marries a girl essentially from Philadelphia. She's from like Jersey, but it's like the suburbs of Philadelphia. And they've known each other for probably between 2 and 3 years. They got married like 18 months ago. So let's say they've known each other for 3 years. And their biggest all-time fight was 2 years ago when the Eagles played the Niners in the NFC title game. And Erin, his now wife, is like a diehard Eagles fan, as is her family and her friends. And of course, Jim is a lifelong diehard Niners fan. And there was a whole deal where like they were playing Fly Eagles Fly, the Eagles fight song, when the Eagles just dominated the Niners 2 years ago in the NFC title game, when the Niners didn't even have like a starting quarterback in that game. Or who got hurt? Brock Purdy?
Yeah.
Before Purdy. All right. So Brock Purdy gets hurt. Josh Johnson, I want to say, played in that game, who's still, by the way, in the NFL and won for the Commanders yesterday against the Eagles. But so they got in this huge fight like 2 years ago. It's like their biggest fight to date. Then he truly moved to Philadelphia like weeks ago. And would you believe it that the Niners are going to play the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia in the first round of the NFL playoffs? And that's all because the Niners wasted a golden opportunity that was handed to them heading into week 18, where all they needed to do, I say all they needed to do, they needed to beat Seattle at home, and they were dominated by Seattle at home. So they went from the 1 seed to now being on the road in the first round of the NFC playoffs. They're going to play in Philadelphia coming up again this weekend. So that's neither here nor there, but it's kind of very Jim-like. Here's the other thing that Brent isn't aware of. So today we had this like all staff meeting, and you were probably working.
I was here. I was on the board. Yeah.
Right. So there's an all staff meeting, and this is like sales and programming. And some people are working on air. Brent was one of them, actually, for our sister station, 600 AM, Kogo. So there's all these people in this room. I mean, tons of people. It's the start of the year. Got this all staff meeting, and there's 50, 75 people in a room. And our market manager, like the overall boss of iHeart San Diego, is like, we need everyone to write down their 2026 like goal or resolution, because they say that when you write it down, it's more likely to come to fruition. And I do buy that. It's kind of like if you just say in your head, hey, I want to lose 20 pounds, but then it's very easy to forget about it.
You manifest it. Yeah.
Yeah, you manifest it. So I buy that. By the way, she also made an interesting point, which was that I guess mathematically speaking, somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 or 9% of resolutions are met, which I buy. You know, people say I'm going to, double my salary, or I'm going to lose 20 pounds, or I'm going to run a marathon. That's only happening 8, 9, 10% of the time, right? I think we all understand that. You make 3 resolutions, maybe you're able to complete one of them. So she's like, write it down, speak it into existence. So I'm thinking to myself, like, well, I don't even know what 2026 is going to bring. I'm like, I don't even have a co-host, and who even knows what is going to happen in the days and weeks ahead, other than the fact that we know we're going to be here in the days and weeks ahead. So I wrote down on a sticky note, Brett's already smiling. I put 2026 goal, find a co-host that's better than Jim Russell. So, and then I put it's on the wall. All the resolutions are on the wall outside the men's room here at iHeart San Diego. And then I'm like, maybe I'll put it on X, but I'm like, I feel bad. I shouldn't do that. So I was with one of our buddies in sales, Dom, good buddy of ours who listens to the station. And I'm like, should I do this? I feel bad. He's like, oh, absolutely post it. You absolutely have to post it. So I posted, I'm told it's more likely to happen if you write it down with like a LMAO emoji, like a LOL emoji. And I put a picture of the sticky note saying, find a co-host that's better than Jim Russell. And he seems cool with it. He immediately responded like, what's the deal? Like, why'd I have to, like, what's the deal? Why'd you have to do that? But we'll see if that happens or not is the point. Like, am I going to find there's no replacing Jim at the end of the day.
No,
there's no replacing Jim. I was completely kidding, kind of. But stay tuned because I will have a new co-host at some point here, hopefully early in 2026. So there were a couple of big local sports stories this weekend. One involving the Padres, the other involving the Aztecs men's basketball team. And you might say, what do you mean involving the Padres? Well, I spent a lot of last week saying that there were these two Japanese stars that were posted that the Padres are still linked to in some capacity. Kazuma Okamoto, who was an infielder who had hit nearly 300 career home runs in Japan, and then a starting pitcher, a younger player in Tatsuya Imai, who had pitched really brilliantly in the NPB, the Nippon Professional Baseball League, at times throughout the course of the first half of his career. And we were seeing some reporting that the Padres may have been in on one or the other, or even both to some extent. And it's like, this has been the story of the Padres with high-level Japanese players that get posted over the last handful of years. It's like they're in the conversation and then they never complete the process. Like they always finish in second or third. And I honestly thought as recently as Saturday that they were going to land the slugger, Okamoto, because there was some reporting to suggest that they were a finalist and it might have been down to like two teams and they were one of them. And of course they don't land them. And then I look at the terms on these deals and these were not outlandish deals. Looking at the Okamoto deal with the Blue Jays, all right, I think maybe they reached $60 million, but it's over 4 years. I mean, it's $15 million a year. Okay. It's a sizable commitment, but it's not a ridiculous commitment. And then the deal for the pitcher, Tatsuya Imai, that the Astros announced on Friday is a very reasonable deal. It's 3 one-year deals. It's technically a 3-year deal, but he has an opt-out after each of the first 2 years. He's getting $18 million a year, essentially, in this deal. I think it's actually less than that in the first year, and then it accelerates to $21 million for the last 2 years of the deal. And when I see the terms on this, I'm somewhat surprised that the Padres maybe weren't able to land one of these players, honestly. And I could argue what they need more. Is it the bat? I don't know. You look at some of the metrics and some of the numbers. I saw like some of the WAR that's projected for 2026, wins above replacement, and maybe the lineup is in a better spot than their pitching staff. And I get it. They could use starting pitching help. But if you could get a starting pitcher that could help you immediately, like Imai is 27, and he's on a deal that's going to pay him $18 million a year. That's the AAV, the average, annual value of the deal. And I'm thinking to myself, well, $18 million a year is less than Nick Pivetta is making in his deal, or similar to what Nick Pivetta is making in his deal, or similar to like what Darvish is making in his deal. And Darvish may never pitch again in the major league. So to me, it seems like a little bit of a value. But for whatever reason, the Padres either thought they had better options or didn't have the resources to do the deal, or Imai thought Houston was a better situation than San Diego. So I think between the two, whether Okamoto 15 a year or Imai for 18 a year, I probably would have taken both if money wasn't an option. I don't think it's crazy money. Both of those players combined for like $30 million a year. Okay, that's not realistic. You're not going to get both of them. I would have taken either. Probably starting with the starting pitcher. Tatsuya Imai, who's making $18 million a year, because they need starting pitching. It's as simple as that. I think they could use a bat that can hit for power as well, but they could use the starting pitching. So it's the same old story. It's not like we spent weeks on end saying, trust us, Okamoto is coming, and trust me, Imai is coming, and the Padres are going to outbid everyone. But this is not some $300 million deal. This isn't the Yamamoto deal that the Dodgers gave out a couple of off seasons ago, where you're talking about 10 plus years and $300+ million. These are relatively short term, reasonably priced contracts that you would think a team like San Diego would be in on. Now, you take a step back and they've got serious commitments. They're over the luxury tax threshold already for 2026. That could change. They could make trades. They could move pieces. They could move to then bring other players in. But they're over the luxury tax threshold. It's not like they're pinching pennies at this point. They're not going to be 25th in payroll. They're not going to be 15th in payroll. They're likely top 10-ish in payroll. They'll go over the luxury tax number probably. They're, at least right now, projected to go over that luxury tax number. I think only 6 or 7 teams did it a year ago. So I don't even really know how to look at it, truthfully. I'm not sitting here like, oh my gosh, how could they not do it? Because again, they've made some commitments to a lot of players on this team. But I'm also thinking, if somebody would have told me at the beginning of the posting period that Imai, the 27-year-old starting pitcher, is getting 18 a year, I'd be like, oh, you got to get in on that. You can't get starting pitching for less than 18 a year. Or if somebody said, hey, you can get a guy that could hit 30 home runs, which is so rare for the Padres. Like, look at this roster. Does Tatis hit 30 home runs? He hasn't since 2021. Does Machado hit 30 home runs? He sits between 26 and 31 in his Padres career. Bogarts? No, he's not hitting 30. Merrill? No, he's a great hitter, but is he going to fall out of bed and hit 30 home runs? They could use that hitter, is the point. And at a price tag of 15 as opposed to 25 or 35, I thought it was at least reasonable. But, maybe they have other options, and maybe those will present themselves in the days and weeks ahead. I mean, spring training is coming. We're going to get to the Super Bowl, and spring training will be here. WBC is going to be here. And then the season and spring training is going to be here as well. So we can discuss that over parts of the next 4 hours. Will Brinson will join us to talk about the insanity that was, and you'll hear the Mike Tirico call. He kind of set the Ravens up for failure last night when their young kicker, who was perfect from inside 50 all season long, missed a field goal that would have sent the Ravens to the postseason. It would have won them the division, but instead Aaron Rodgers will live to see another game as Pittsburgh wins that division. But we'll talk to Will Brinson coming up at 4:30, our NFL Insider. Talk about the insanity that was the fourth quarter of Ravens and Steelers. Also about the wasted opportunity for the Niners. Can it be salvaged now, having to go to the road, starting in Philadelphia? Is there a path for the Niners to make a postseason run now that they're not the 1 seed in the NFC? But on the other side, I mentioned the fact that there were 2 massive stories this weekend. I don't even know if the Padres are that big of a story. I just thought it was interesting that Imai and Okamoto sign, and they do so for relatively, small dollar figures, and the Padres didn't get involved. And then there were the Aztecs. And if my voice sounds a little hoarse today, that's why. All right. We're going to talk about the Aztecs and this epic, incredible back and forth affair that went 3 overtimes. And San Diego State won. We'll hear from Brian Dusher what he had to say about a post game as well. San Diego State over Boise State on Saturday night in an epic thriller. They won at 110-107. They've got Nevada tomorrow night in Reno as well. So we'll hear from Brian Dusher what he had to say post game. Will Brinson will join us coming up at 4:30. We're here until 6. Don't go anywhere. San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right. I was about to say it. I didn't. I corrected myself. John Schaefer, Brent Sperry with you until 6 p.m. You'll hear from Brian Dutcher postgame Saturday night coming up in about 15 minutes. Plus, did Mike Tirico jinx the Ravens rookie kicker last night? You'll hear what Mike Tirico had to say before he missed that 44-yarder that would have sent the Ravens to a division title and the postseason and a home playoff game. Instead, their season is over. We're going to get to the Aztecs and the insanity that was Saturday. The fact that I have a voice, I was very concerned because you heard me, Brent, as the game was going on. The first 2 hours, I was fine. But then I looked up and we were 2 hours in. There were like 6 minutes left in the second half. I mean, this game took forever. They had all these stoppages because of the floor and like the temperature in the building. And it was an epic like saga is what it was. It was like, name a long movie. It was like Gettysburg, right? I don't know if you've ever seen. I've actually seen that.
Yeah, that was long.
That was very long. This
I think that was a mini series, but I'll allow it.
How long was this game? Because it was over 3 hours, right?
Yeah,
like 10-10, something like that. And come overtime, my voice was shot because there were so many big plays. The Aztecs had a 24-point lead, and then they trailed, and then they tied it, and then all hope was lost, and then it wasn't. I mean, I was just holding on for dear life. I also haven't been like 100%. I feel like I'm under the weather in general.
Well, you went 3 overtimes without a break, too.
Oh, yeah. I didn't take one break from, I'm acting like this is hard or something, but from the 4-minute media timeout until the end of the third overtime, which probably was at least an hour of overall time. So, anyway, San Diego State wins this game 110-107. We're going to get into it, I promise you, in a large extent coming up here over the course of the show. But I did find this interesting, sticking with the Padres for a moment. We just talked about that missing out on these Japanese stars, the pitcher Tatsuya Imai and the slugger Kazuma Okamoto. So Mike Shildt goes on a podcast today. This has nothing to do with Imai or Okamoto, but Mike Shildt goes on a show today. What show was this even? The Brandon Golden Show with former Cardinal and Padre manager Mike Shildt. Okay, the Brandon Golden Show, whatever that is. Pirate Radio TV is the YouTube channel. And he made kind of an interesting admission that he even recognized because he backtracked on it. And talking about his final season managing the Padres, listen to what brought Mike Shildt the most joy.
You know, for about 5 minutes every day, the last several months of the season, I got a chance to work with Louis Rise at first base. And it was the best 5 minutes of my day. And I had a really great opportunity with great guys, and I want to minimize that I didn't enjoy it. But my point being is, when I stepped back and decided I wanted to do something more back into the teaching side of it, the relational side of it, because you don't get a chance to teach it almost at all as a manager in the big leagues. You do establish big picture relationships, but it's hard to get as granular in people's lives. So when I stepped back, the opportunity that I was looking for presented itself. And, you know, my faith is strong, and I believe that, you know, God put me in this spot for a reason. But and I get to do it with a team that I grew up with. I grew up in the AA clubhouse of the Baltimore Orioles. And when Baltimore called and said, this was are you sincere about this? About you're going to go and be willing to go be an instructor in player development again? Yes, I'm sincere. And then, you know, getting a chance to, and then when Cal Ripken calls, who, you know, listen, Cal's my dude. And, you know, he was there every day in 1980 when I was there in Charlotte. And by the way, played every single game of that year, played third base, and played in every single game. They won the Southern League championship. But now I get to go back and work with, you know, staff that are now growing in their career.
All right, so that was a portion of that conversation. Again, the Brandon Golden Hour or whatever it was on YouTube. So the interesting part of it was only like 90 seconds or 100 seconds. The interesting thing there, and there's a lot of honesty in it. He was basically saying, like, I don't want to do what I'm doing. What I enjoy most about the job is the teaching aspect. And when you manage, there's not teaching, you're overseeing. And he said, I liked the 5 minutes a day that I would actually work with Luis Ariz from like a teaching perspective. So I don't think it was a direct shot at the Padres in general. Like, hey, I hate managing the Padres. I think it was more, I don't want to manage in general, and I want to get back to the teaching aspect of the job. That's what I enjoy most about coaching in the major leagues. And that's what he's going to do with the Baltimore Orioles. But isn't that kind of interesting that Mike Shildt, like after a 90-win season, the best part of the last couple of months of the job, Brian, was teaching Luis Ariz and coaching Luis Ariz at first base for 5 minutes a day.
It could have been worse. I guess he could have been like, it was dinner or something like that.
That's what I left.
Yeah, the end of the day, that was my favorite part of the gig. And I don't know. I guess I thought the most interesting part was when they're like, "Oh, are you sincere?" To where that kind of felt like them going, "Dude, didn't you just like retire from baseball like less than 2 weeks ago, and now you want to jump back into another?" "Oh no, I'm cool as long as it's somewhere else."
It is interesting. I mean, you put all the pieces together, and we said this year. I think when they clinched the playoff spot, we heard what Shildt had to say to the team. It's like, man, this has been such a hard year. And then you hear a soundbite there from a podcast where it's like, the most enjoyable part of my day was 5 minutes with Luis Ariz when I was coaching him. And then you know that in the days that followed the season, he walked away. And I guess if you read the fine print, he didn't retire. He retired as manager of the Padres. That to me is a little bit of like, you know what I mean? It's like fake math or like moving the goalposts. It's like if Jim says he's retiring from Jon and Jim, and then he's on the air a week later doing a radio show. Like, no, I thought you were getting out of radio. No, I was getting out of the Jon and Jim show. Like, you didn't position it that way, dude.
Well, I don't think he told Baltimore that, because then they'd be like, "Oh, that was your favorite part? He had not a very good season last year." It's like, maybe you should have spent 10 minutes with him instead of 5.
Exactly. It's just, you put it all together. And like, I do understand it. Like Mike Shildt, veteran manager, he's not in his 30s or 40s. He's in his 60s. Managing requires a lot. Right? I mean, it really does. From the 1st of February, essentially, before pitchers and catchers report, to the end of the postseason, you're talking to the media multiple times a day. You're managing not just a club, but a clubhouse and the comings and goings. There's so much that goes into it. So I don't see it as an easy job. But you'd like to think that, managing a club in San Diego that wins 93 games and 90 games and it was one of the best teams in baseball, truthfully, in 2024. They didn't show it when they lost the Dodgers in the postseason, but like, he managed good teams, yet that wasn't enough to keep him around. I think it does tell you about the challenges of just managing in the major leagues. I don't think it's a complete indictment on the San Diego Padres, although maybe to some extent it is, but it certainly speaks to the challenges of managing in the major leagues. All right, we're going to continue on. We will switch gears to the Aztecs. We'll talk more about this epic win that they had on Saturday night over Boise State. They quickly turn the page. They'll be in Reno tomorrow. So will I, to take on the Nevada Wolfpack. We'll hear from Brian Dutcher if you missed him postgame following San Diego State's triple overtime win over the Broncos, 110-107. Here until 6 p.m. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760 and the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. The Aztec basketball team is back on the road tomorrow night when they take on Nevada. Our pregame coverage will begin at 7:00, and John will have the tip after 8. It was Black Monday in the NFL as 4 teams gave their head coaches the axe. Arizona, I almost said Oakland again. Arizona, Vegas, Cleveland, and Atlanta all fire their head coaches respectively. They join the Titans and the Giants, who got rid of their head coaches earlier in the season. Arizona held on to the number 1 spot by a single point over a fast-closing Michigan team in the AP Top 25 poll, making it one of the closest races in the top for the top spot in the 78-year history of the poll. The Wildcats received 32 of 61 first-place votes, while the Wolverines scooped up the other 29. It was 1 point away from being the first poll, from being the only second poll to tie for the number 1 spot. Oregon State and Virginia shared the top spot in 1981. The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
All right, we're going to hear from Brian Dutcher post-game Saturday night coming up momentarily. All right, John Schaefer back with you here until 6. Will Brinson will join us coming up at 4:30. So Will Brinson will join us coming up at 4:30. We'll talk about a wild weekend in the NFL as well. So, I mean, I don't even know where you start. Maybe at the end on Saturday night. The Aztecs played one of the most ridiculous games. And I do think that's probably a fair way to put it. It was just like an epic game. Just epic in all senses of the word. They built a 24-point lead against Boise State at Viejas Arena. I mean, the Aztecs win like 90% of the time in the building, and they're up 24 in the first half, 21 at the half. You're like, they're going to win this game going away, right? I mean, they were playing at such a high level. Looked like one of the best teams in America in the first half. And then Boise State, give them credit. They storm back, hitting threes. Seemingly, they're going to win the game in regulation. I mean, they had all the momentum in the world. Aztecs were holding on for dear life. I want to say at the end of regulation was when Boise State had a pull-up 15-footer, uncontested essentially at the buzzer, and it rimmed out. It was like in and out from their point guard, Dylan Andrews, right?
Yeah, right at the free throw line.
Aztecs went quick, missed their shot. It bounced out to like close to midcourt. Dylan Andrews ran the floor. He had to put it up as the clock was expiring, and he put up a 15-footer, basically uncontested, missed the shot that was halfway down. So you live to see a first overtime. The Aztecs were completely left for dead in the first overtime. Most people were filing for the exits. It was a 6-point Boise State lead with 18 seconds left. The Aztecs had a shot blocked at the rim. Thankfully, they did. If the shot went in, I don't think they would have won the game because it was a 6-point game. If the shot went in at the rim, they would have been trailing by 4. Well, the shot was blocked, and guess what? It ended up with LZ Harrington on the 3-point line. He drains a 3. So now it's a 3-point game with 10 seconds left, but you're like, game's still over. How are you overcoming a 3-point deficit with 10 seconds left? You don't have the ball. Boise inbounds. They made some absurdly bad inbound pass into their front court. It's like a 60-foot heave intercepted by BJ Davis. Davis ties it up. Do we have the call? Let's play. This was the end of the first overtime with the Aztecs trailing by 3 and Boise State inbounding that sent it to a second overtime.
He can run the baseline off the make, and he's going to throw all the way ahead. It's intercepted by Davis. Final seconds. Davis straight on. It's a 3-point game. Final seconds. Davis needs to shoot a 3. He will. It's on the air and good. We're tied up. 0.4 seconds. San Diego State's come all the way back. Andrews now the buzzer off the rim from 70 feet. And the Aztecs from 6 down in the final 10 seconds hit a pair of threes, and it's deja vu at Viejas Arena.
I was referencing a game from earlier this year when they lost in double overtime, but forced an overtime with a half-court shot from Miles Bird, and now you know why my voice isn't exactly 100% today. But yeah, that sent us to a second overtime. I don't even know what happened in the second overtime. Aztecs took a 5-point lead only to see Boise score the final 5 points of the second overtime. And then in the third overtime, The Aztecs trailed by 5 immediately. Immediately, there was a wide open 3 in the corner, unguarded for Boise. They take a 3-point lead, then they get a stop and score again. And now you're down 5 again. And somehow, some way, San Diego State overcomes that and holds off Boise to win 110-107. Boise essentially missed a 3 at the buzzer, and the Aztecs won it. And man, it's an important one because, the Aztecs, they don't have to be perfect in the Mountain West, but they've got to be very good in the league to remain in that large consideration because they didn't have the perfect non-conference. They lost at home to Troy. They were beaten by number 1 and number 2. There's no shame in that. But they were beaten by Arizona and Michigan, and they lost a game to Baylor. Again, there's not real shame in that, but they led that game with 12 minutes to play, and that would have been kind of that statement win that they're probably looking for from an at-large perspective. So anyway, they win this game. They're 3-0 in the Mountain West. They get 3-0 Nevada tomorrow night. Huge game. I think you really want to get back into the at-large conversation. Win in Reno tomorrow. Right now, that is a quad 1 opportunity for San Diego State. I wouldn't call it a must-win game, but if you really want to cement yourself in the at-large conversation, win tomorrow in Reno. But anyway, that's kind of what happened. If you missed it, maybe you didn't miss it. Here was Brian Dutcher talking about more of it post-game with me on Saturday night.
Brian Dutcher's coached a lot of college basketball games as a head coach and assistant. I don't know how many games he's coached in like this. A triple overtime classic at Viejas Arena. Dutch, first of all, take a seat, take a load off for a moment, and congratulations. How on earth did this play out in this manner? And congratulations on the win.
It was an instant classic. It's San Diego State, Boise. I mean, every time we play them, it's like this. So an incredible game. We could have got down, lost a big lead in the second half. But I told the guys at halftime, if we're in our locker room and we're down 21, I don't feel we're out of the game. And they don't either. So they're going to try to play their way back into it. And they did. They made plays. They made threes. And we got stagnant offensively. All the movement we had in the first half, we tried to attack too quickly. And we didn't have the movement of the ball or players like we did in the first half. But we fought through. We didn't give in. BJ's play was as good as you're ever going to see. I mean, to steal it, intercept that pass in the three-quarter court, drive down, size him up for a 3 and knock it down. That's an incredible, incredible play. And then we made enough timely plays. LZ made some real big baskets in that overtime to kind of get us over the top. And we used everybody. Farrell Compton was sick today, didn't go through walkthrough, had an IV before the game, came in and gave us some really good minutes. Even though he's under the weather, Tay had a hyperextension of the knee, tried to warm up but couldn't go. So we have enough players, and that depth is important, and it played a factor tonight's game.
Dutch, I'm trying to remember because there's so many twists and turns in this game. You mentioned the B.J. Davis steal and then his 3, but prior to that, I want to say LZ Harrington hit a left wing 3 down 6 with about 18 seconds or so. I mean, that was a massive, to your point on Harrington, I think he had 4 or 5 points at halftime. He finished with 20. He made massive plays in the overtimes, first overtime, second overtime. What are you seeing from him as he continues to evolve as a freshman?
He's growing up.
Yeah.
He's a freshman, but he's growing up. 7 for 11 from the field, 5 for 6 from the line. Just a rock-solid game for LZ. And then Bird seemed like he was getting hurt every other play, cramping up, gutted it out. We needed the defense that he was playing. And we shot 53% for the game. And that's a really high percentage. And we found a way to make enough plays to win a really tough Mountain West game tonight, John.
Dutch, what was the key to getting off to the start? I mean, you kind of blitzed them. You've done it over the years at times. It was 42-18 at one point. What was working so well? You had 8 or 9 minute stretch in there. I don't think they had a field goal.
Yeah, we just had the floor space so well, and we were moving so well that we were getting downhill to the basket.
Yeah.
Second half, we didn't get in the paint as easily. We tried to go too fast. The defense was set. And when their defense is set, they tilt the floor. They do a good job. I just thought we got impatient with our offense to start of the second half. I could feel it, and sometimes you tell them in timeouts and they come out and they do it again. And so we're not making the adjustments that I'm trying to make in the timeouts, or they're not understanding what I'm wanting them to do. So I have to do a better job explaining exactly what I want when I come out of those timeouts.
What did you make of, Boise's offense in the second half? They hit all the threes. Javen Buchanan at one point in this game was 10 of 10. From the floor with 27 points. What was it like to deal with? He was hitting threes outside, and then he was working his way inside as well. He was a complete load tonight.
Oh, he was unbelievable. Yeah, they made a lot of threes, and they were physical at the rim, and it was a physical, tough-fought Mountain West game. And I don't know what the rebounds ended up. I thought that would be
+8 at 45-37 in the end.
They had 13 offensive rebounds. We had 8. So, we wanted to fight on the glass, but they got a lot of them. And but we did a good job walling up the end and not fouling under the basket. And hard game to officiate too. A lot of physicality. I don't feel I feel bad for those guys. Everybody's on them all the time. It's a hard game to officiate.
Dutch, you'll get Nevada on Tuesday in Reno. You just had a game in which you played players 40-plus minutes, which hasn't really been the case this year with your depth. What's the philosophy, the practice schedule moving forward over the next 48 hours, getting ready for a Nevada team that's gotten off to a great start this year?
3-0 Nevada. Yeah, yep. We'll have to, as much as we wanted to do something on the floor tomorrow, we're not going to be able to. We'll get in, we'll watch film, we'll do a mental practice, try to rest legs because, like you said, we play in 3 days in Reno. And that's not easy either. So it's the Mountain West. It's what you sign up for. And I'm just so happy and proud of our guys tonight that they fought away. And, the fans that left early, I hope they listened to you on the radio when they thought it was over.
They were not. I don't know what I was saying.
I know your listenership went up because late in the game, I saw the fans filing out. And I know they went in their cars and probably said, what did we leave for? And I'm sure they listened to you down the stretch and we're happy for their Aztecs.
Before you go, Dutch, because it's hard to do what you did when the fans were filing out. When you go down 6 against a veteran team like Boise State, it's like going down 6 against you in the final 30 seconds. There's not a lot of avenues or paths to get back in it. How do you stay the course? Because the highs and the lows, the adversity. I'm sure you're thinking in a 6-point game, hey, listen, I've coached a long enough time. I know that this game is not over, even though we're trailing here late in overtime.
Yeah, I've been through enough of these to know they're never over. And so I didn't want to get too down when we were down late, even though it looked bleak. We try to just keep coaching them up, taking timeouts that we saved into those situations, try to set up situational basketball and make enough plays to win the game, and that's what we did tonight.
You've been here a quarter century. This is the first triple overtime win in San Diego State men's basketball history. First triple overtime win in San Diego State men's basketball history.
That's saying something.
And you've been here for a while. This is real quick before you go. All the games, Michigan, elsewhere here. How many games come to mind? Anything like this? Is there anything compare? I mean, there has to be, but who even knows?
Yeah, the plays we made down 6 were really incredible.
Yeah.
So when I go back, it's all a blur in my mind right now. 3 overtimes, you're trying to remember every play, but you're trying to remember a whole game's worth of plays. I just know we made enough timely ones to come out of here with a win today.
Dutch, congrats.
Thanks, John.
Right,
appreciate it.
Reno.
All right, that was Brian Dutcher postgame. What a night it was, Saturday night. I slept terribly after that because, again, we signed off at 11, which isn't crazy, but the game started at 7. And then I was just like wired from it. I don't even know. I slept terribly. I don't think I talked much yesterday to just try to preserve my voice after that. And heading for Reno tomorrow, but much more enjoyable to talk about since they won the game as opposed to potentially blowing what would have been a 24-point blown lead at Viejas Arena on Saturday night. All right, if you missed it last night, let's switch gears to the NFL on the other side. A couple of just monumental games, including this epic finish to the regular season. I mean, it truly finished the regular season. Steelers and Ravens last night in Pittsburgh. Aaron Rodgers lives to see another weekend. What Mike Tirico had to say about it heading into that field goal try for the Ravens that would have won the game last night. So we'll hear from Mike Tirico. Will Brinson will join us coming up at 4:30. Much more in the Aztecs and the Padres ahead. We're here until 6 right here on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, Will Brinson, senior NFL writer, CBS Sports. He's had some stuff to write about this weekend in the NFL. Of course, the wild card matchups are set Saturday through Monday. And man, there was drama and intrigue, and it set up well for NBC because we knew that Ravens Steelers winner was in, loser was out. So that's theater, especially with proud franchises. Pittsburgh, Aaron Rodgers, Baltimore, Lamar Jackson. I mean, it's set up beautifully heading in, just beautifully. Now, we fast forward to the end of this game. The end of this game was absurd, and I'm not just talking about the field goal.
Like the last 3 minutes.
The back and forth, like what happened? It was like we were watching Madden or something. And you get all these twists and turns, which is great. The NFL is set up for that. There's maybe it was the game of the year. There were some great games this year in the regular season, the NFL. This was one of them. And the play that would have been remembered as one of the biggest plays of the season, but it won't be anymore, was the fourth down throw Lamar Jackson made that was caught by, tell me who caught, I have no idea who caught it.
It's like Lucky or not?
Likely?
Likely, yes.
Yes. Brilliant catch. I thought it was a great throw, better catch. Like this leaping grab on fourth down, 25 yards downfield. That doesn't put the Ravens in fringe field goal range. They're in field goal range. The catch is made at the 24. So you're looking at like a 41-yarder. Now, next play, Lamar Jackson kneels. He takes a 2-yard loss, but he did the right thing. He centered the ball. Now, what is the dude's even first name? The last name's Loop. He took over for Justin Tucker. Remember that storyline? But they have this rookie kicker. What's his first name? I'm looking at Tyler Loop, right? So they've got this rookie kicker who I want to say, was it maybe Arizona? And he had been literally perfect from inside 50 all year. Here's how many kicks he had missed from inside 50, 0. So he had made every single field goal try from inside 50 yards. This was well inside 50. It wasn't 49. It was 44. Now, was it cold and frigid and impactful and massive? Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers was on the sideline contemplating if this is over. Yeah. It was it.
So, okay. So now again, I think if you watch enough NFL, you're thinking 44-yard field goals go in. Like there's never been a year where more percent of field goal attempts went in than this year, right?
Yes. And especially with the fact that Pittsburgh missed their extra point. And it's one of those things in football, whenever you miss an extra point like that, you're like, they're going to lose by, they're going to lose by a field goal now.
Yeah, so exactly. That's what Pittsburgh is thinking in that exact moment. So this is how it was set up, and this is what it sounded like last night with Mike Tirico on the call for Sunday Night Football.
But they went around the country and spoke to a lot of the kickers who were coming out, and they decided Tyler Loop was made of the right stuff for moments like this. He now has a chance to win the division for the Ravens. The final play of the regular season for the final spot in the playoffs. Tyler Loop from 44. Snap good. Hold it. The kick is no good. It is wide right. And the Steelers are the champions of the North.
Oops. Yeah, he did kind of. That is a bit of an announcer jinx. I thought from the jinx on, great call. Yeah, champions of the North, last play of the regular season. One moves on, one goes. So I thought the call was great. Did he set up Tyler Loop to fail in that spot? Yeah, probably. And then if you're Tyler Loop, this is why I've always said this, and I think most people would agree. Listen, are these amazing jobs? Can you imagine making $2-3 million in a year to just kick? Sure, sounds great. That's more than most people could make in a career. You could make $75,000 for 10 years, and that's $750,000. And there's kickers that could make $1.5 million a year, right? That's 10, 20, 30 years of salary for a lot of people. But you can never put down what happened last night if you're Tyler Loop. And I saw John Harbaugh with him walking into the locker room. I was impressed with Harbaugh. It never comes down to one play, even though it does. It's not like it was Tyler Loop, the sole reason why Baltimore didn't win the game. There's no way it is as simple as that if you watch the entirety of this game and the back and forth. But at the end of the day, it's the final play of the game. So who's going to get the credit or who's going to get the blame? And it's one of the tougher jobs is what I would say. You're only remembered for your mistakes. That's the issue with being a kicker. And there's very few jobs, even in sports, that are like that.
Well, yeah, and they put all the emphasis on your mistakes. You know,
Oh
if,
my
if
gosh.
if you're a quarterback and you throw an interception on the last play of the game, you might get crap about it for a couple days, and then after that, it'll probably never be mentioned again, unless it becomes like a habit, like Lamar Jackson can't win in the playoffs type of a thing. But this was just one of those things where it just as soon as you miss this kick, you're done. And a lot of these cases, it's not like, oh yeah, at the end of the year, they're going to cut me. Most of these cases, it's like, no, you're going to get cut, like tomorrow. It's like, you're not even going to survive to, make it through the weekend because you missed a kick.
I mean, these are the types of things. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying this was, Super Bowl 25, Scott Norwood. But like I say Super Bowl 25, Scott Norwood, I don't have to say anything else, do I? Like that, how many Super Bowls have we had since? It's been 30 plus years since Scott Norwood, wide right. And then there's like Miami, Florida State, wide right and wide right 2 and wide left. Like you don't even have to say anything. You just say the name, right? Double doink with the Bears, Scott Norwood with the Bills last night for the Ravens. That is a wild way to end a season. Just incredible.
Well, I'm just standing in my kitchen and it's just like I'm listening to Tirico just go. It's one thing if you like you and Rich earlier in the year with the Aztecs when Palencia had that like long like streak of field goals going. You have to mention that the streak is going on, but a certain way in your head, you're probably like, you don't want to jinx them. Tirico went way past that, where he's just pretty much talking about how this guy's mental fortitude is just so great. And this is the reason why they drafted him in the first place, was for these big mental, tough kicks just like this. And then like not even 20 seconds later, it's just like, oh, oops, never mind.
100%. All right, let's go to Brock, who wants to weigh in on this. 877-767-4760 if you want to talk, now that we've got this solo-esque show, me and Brent. But if you want to weigh in, 877-767-4760 or text us 70470. You can start your message with the word team. That's 70470. Start it with the word team. And Brock, appreciate you calling in. You're on San Diego Sports 760.
Yeah, guys. Hey, I was listening to what you're talking about right now, and a quote, it reminds me of a quote, the Allen Iverson quote. We talking about practice. And what I'm thinking is, guys, we talking about jinxes? Come on, man. Jinxes? Give me a break. The kid missed the kick. It doesn't matter what Tirico says. It doesn't matter if that Catholic priest throws holy water in the end zone. The kid just flat out missed the kick. The moment was too big for him. And we got to end this jinx talk, man. It's ridiculous.
Wait, stay where you are for 1 second, Brock. Because I don't know if you realize it or not, but like in addition to sports talk, I do play-by-play, right? But I believe in it. Like I would never, in doing play-by-play for a baseball game, mention someone like in the midst of a no-hitter, because for fear that, again, 9 out of 10 people would never say like, how could the broadcaster have anything to do with like Joe Musgrove having a no-hitter broken up? But if I say like Joe Musgrove is working on a no-hitter with 2 outs in the 8th inning and the next batter is a hit, isn't someone going to tie that back to you?
I get it. This narrative goes on in sports. I'm a big golfer. It's the same type of thing. Hey, Don't tell me to make this putt, because if you tell me to make it, I'll miss it. Right. I get the whole jinx thing.
But I'm with you.
But I don't know, guys. I just think it's a little bit ridiculous at this point.
You sound like Jim Rome, by the way. Thank you, Brock, for calling in. 877-767-4760. Again, 877-767-4760. We can continue the conversation on the other side. Plus, an NBA star is now seeking a trade. This is significant news that's developing right now, as being reported by ESPN. A star in the NBA is now requesting a trade. Who is that? We've got the latest for you on the other side. Plus, Will Brinson will join us coming up at 4:30 to talk about Wild Card Weekend and Week 18 of the regular season in the NFL. Stay with us. Hour 2 coming up next on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by Positive Coaching Alliance. The Aztecs are on the road tomorrow night when they take on Nevada. Our pregame coverage begins at 7:00. John will have the tip after 8. It was Black Monday in the NFL as 4 teams gave their head coaches the axe. Arizona, Vegas, Cleveland, and Atlanta all fired their head coaches respectively. They join Tennessee and the Giants, who fired their head coaches earlier in the year. Arizona held on to the number 1 spot over a fast closing Michigan team in the AP top 25, making it one of the closest races for the top spot in the 78-year history of the poll. The Wildcats received 32 of 61 first place votes, while the Wolverines scooped up the other 29. It was 1 point away from being only the second tie ever in the history of the poll. The other one was Oregon State and Virginia tied in 1981. Got issues with your youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national nonprofit, offers more than 1,000 free online services and resources for youth and high school sports coaches, parents, students, and administrators. Visit PCADevZone.org.
All right, again, a happy new year from all of us at San Diego Sports 760. Will Brinson will swing by coming up at 4:30. If you missed BJ Davis postgame, we heard from Brian Dutcher. I'll tell you what, and there's a lot to get into, by the way. There's a developing story with an NBA star that we'll share with you in 2 minutes. But let me just say this. BJ Davis today was named the Mountain West Player of the Week because he not only did he average 20 points and 2 wins for the Aztecs at San Jose State, then on Saturday against Boise State, it's the impact of his scoring, and not just his scoring, but he made a play, and you don't make a better play than he made in the first overtime when he intercepted a pass 65 feet from the basket and then did everything from that point on himself and eyed up a straight on 3-pointer that went in with 0.4 seconds left. Like, he made big time plays in those wins down the stretch on the road against San Jose State, down the stretch at home against Boise State. He's playing some great basketball right now. The junior guard for SDSU. They'll need him tomorrow in Reno against Nevada. And you'll hear what he had to say coming up as well later on during today's show.
Now, you and me kind of talked about this during one of the breaks during the game on Saturday. I was shocked that that Boise State didn't foul BJ Davis there. They just pretty much, after he made the steal, they let him just stand at the top of the key there for at least 7 to 8 seconds.
Yeah.
And then just let him get the shot off. Are you in favor of fouling at the last moment like that or not? Because it seems like Dutch isn't, because he won't do it.
I was going to say, San Diego State does not typically foul with a 3-point lead late. Look no further than the third overtime when Boise missed a 3 near the buzzer that would have tied the game. Okay. And now there's arguments to do it or not do it. I think Boise in that spot, and it's tough because it's a bit of like a broken floor play. Like, you're not expecting an inbounds pass that you're making to be stolen away. Now, all of a sudden, you got to think on your feet. Should we foul up 3 because that results in just 2 free throws? The issue with not really knowing what you want to do there is, what if you foul while the player's in the act of shooting or gets the benefit of the call? And the officiating crew on Saturday, I don't even need to say more than that. I mean, the officiating on Saturday was bizarre, is what I would say. There were a lot of factors at play there. Mark Ziegler wrote a little bit about it. Others have spoken on it. Leon Rice, the head coach for Boise State, was teed up. You had an official that had worked like 10 games this year, most of them involving a non-Division I opponent for a Division I team. It was very odd crew, and I thought the officiating both ways was poor. So if you foul there and Davis gets the shot off and it goes in, well, then you could lose by 1. But yes, I think because of how long he was, to your point, kind of eyeing the shot up, I think you got to do everything in your power to foul on the floor. If you're Boise State, if they do that, they probably would have won the game. But we'll hear from BJ Davis coming up. All right, so look at this developing story. I don't even know if you've seen this, Brent. This is now 15 minutes old. This is from Shams at ESPN. Atlanta Hawks All-Star Trae Young and his agents are working with the franchise on a trade. So that, per ESPN, that Trae Young and his representation and the Hawks have started talks over the last week on finding a resolution. He's been out for most of the year. He's only played 10 games. He's been dealing with a quad. He's averaging less than 20 points per game this year, well below his career average. Now, he's still a relatively young player. You look at like a Trae Young right now. Let's see. So he is, how old is Trae Young? He's not 30, is he? He's 27. He's 27. I mean, he's a true star. He's one of these guys that probably could use the change of scenery. When you think about the top 15 players in the league, a few of them, and correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, I think Trae Young would be one of those guys.
Yeah.
Trae Young, John Morant, you never see him. Now, Ja, his own doing, that's fine. And he hasn't been on a great team the last couple of years. And then Atlanta's, what is Atlanta known for? Being in the play-in tournament? Like Atlanta every year is either 7, 8, 9, or 10. So they're not the worst team, but they're not the best team. And you don't see them on TV, anything like you see Denver, Minnesota, Oklahoma City, New York Knicks, Philadelphia 70. You just don't see him on TV as much. So I think he could use the change of scenery. But now we go from not just one huge name that could be on the trade block, Giannis with the Bucks, but now Trae Young as well, who's played just 10 games this year. That could certainly change the fortunes of two franchises, both the Hawks and wherever he lands. I think the trade deadline's about a month away in early February, right? So what do you make of that? Trae Young potentially on the move for the Atlanta Hawks, who again are never overly relevant. Like 17 and 20 this year, Brent, 10th seed in the East. That's like perennially who they've been. Like I go back to last year, let me guess. Was Atlanta like the 9th seed? They were the 9th seed.
February 5th.
Okay, February 5th. Listen to this. 2 years ago, 10 seed. 1 year ago, 9 seed. 3 years ago, 7 seed. This year, 10 seed. So it's time. It's time. He's been there. It hasn't fully panned out. So I could see that kind of shaking up the league a little bit. Trae Young on the move.
The thing that I think is interesting about this is I don't think it's going to be like a straight up move. I think now this could get combined with like a 3 or 4 team trade where, the Bucks aren't going to trade Giannis to Atlanta. Giannis isn't going to go, right, get me out of Milwaukee and send me to Atlanta. Yep. But I could see some sort of deal where maybe the Bucks would get Trae Young and then Giannis would go somewhere else. And then, it'd just be like a 3 or 4 person trade. Cause I think now this gives more options than just, straight up trade Giannis to this team. Cause now it's like, well, you can trade Giannis to this team and then we'll, use some of Atlanta's pieces and move everything around. So that's what I think is interesting. And, he's going to end up a Laker, right?
I don't think so. Cause he's not really.
Well, I don't know what they would even
Luka
trade. Well, you would think so, but that's just the way LeBron does things is when it comes to be the trade deadline, he thinks he needs all these extra pieces.
Yeah. I don't even know where a good, I hadn't like a good fit. Like, I have no idea. Like if you're thinking LA, I'd be thinking more Clippers than Lakers. Speaking of the Clippers, are they still red hot? Have you seen the binge that Kawhi Leonard is on? He is on like a career run right now. This was a team, I think the Clippers started 6-21 or 6-22, and now they're 12-22. They've been playing really good basketball for the last couple of weeks. There was a stretch in there, Brent, where Kawhi did something that's only been done one other time in basketball history, and it was like Kobe in 2007, where like he was scoring 40 plus points and he was shooting 50% from the floor and 40% from 3 and 90% from the line. Now, they just lost to the Celtics by like 1 million the other day, but Kawhi's been terrific. The Clippers are still terrible. It'll be interesting to see what they do at the trade deadline, honestly.
I don't think they'll do anything.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not. I'm just looking at what Kawhi did. So Kawhi against the Celtics, 22 points, 6 of 17 from the floor, finally cooled off. But he had like a 6-game run where it was unbelievable what Kawhi was doing.
I could see maybe San Antonio, just because then that would give them like a legit outside scorer and just a scorer in general to put with Wemby.
You're talking about Trae.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea. But I will say this. I think people are going to be fascinated with the NBA trade deadline because the names are massive. I mean, Giannis and Trae Young. Now, last year we didn't expect Luka, obviously. This was like one of the most
that came out of the blue,
earth-shattering moves in NBA history. And honestly, I don't even know. For all the reaction to the Luka trade, right? And you look right now, and the Lakers are having a very good year, but they're still like, they're 6.5 games behind Oklahoma City. They're 4.5 games behind, they're only 2 games behind the Spurs. They're tied with the Nuggets. So they're currently tied for the 3 seed in the West. Are they going to beat either San Antonio or Oklahoma City in the postseason? Are they going to make a run to the Western Conference Finals, the NBA Finals? I guess we will see. That trade was seen as something that would alter the NBA for a decade, and maybe it will. And maybe it's given now the Lakers that next runway post LeBron for the next decade under Luka, and maybe they'll build around him and they'll win at a very high level. I would just say, listen, last year didn't end well. They lost right away in the opening round of the playoffs. This year they're good. They're one of the better teams in the league, but how good are they? As in, if this year they go out in the Western Conference semifinals, is it really like a NBA altering, forever changing trade if your first 2 years with this generational player, you don't make an NBA finals or even a conference finals with Luka?
I think, though, it could be an altering trade just now for the Lakers. What if Cooper Flag ends up living up to all the hype, then, this could be one of those things in, 20, 30 years from now, we're not talking about, oh yeah, the Lakers got this big steal because they got Luka. We're going to be talking about how, no, that's actually the trade. That's how Dallas got Cooper Flag.
Right.
So it's one of those things. It's one of those things in hindsight that, right now, everyone, we like to pile on to Dallas for, just getting rid of a generational talent and then just pretty much banking on this kid. But like I said, 20, 30 years down the road, if Cooper Flag lives up to all the hype and he ends up just being, one of the top 5, players in the league, then it's not going to look as bad. And if the Lakers don't win a championship, then, Dallas might be the ones that are looked at as the winners in the whole thing.
Yeah, no, that is an interesting point. You got to look at it from the side of both of the franchises, both the Lakers and the Mavericks, and what it means for, it's like the sliding door thing where it's like, well, could have been either way if this trade never happened.
Well, and it still has ripples because Dallas is shopping street clothes again already.
Of course.
So, depending on what they get for that, it could be one of those deals where you're like, oh, instead of talking about Luka, they're going to be like, oh, well, that's how Dallas got Cooper Flag. Then they used, street clothes and they flipped him to, get so-and-so. Right. And
that's a fair point. That is a fair point. All right. On the other side, Phillip Rivers' time as a player is over, but Brent has mentioned today that it is Black Monday. Could Phillip Rivers be destined for a head coaching job in the NFL as soon as this upcoming year? Wouldn't that be a fascinating development in his career arc? Plus, coming up the wrap at 4 p.m. and Will Brinson will join us at 4:30. We'll talk about this past weekend in the NFL. We'll look at the wild card weekend as well. Here until 6. Stay with us. San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, the Aztecs back tomorrow night. They're on the road in Reno, taking on Nevada. The Wolfpack are 3-0 in the Mountain West, like San Diego State. Pregame coverage at 7. It's a late tip, 8 p.m. Right here on your home for the Aztecs, San Diego Sports 760. Said it earlier. I'll say it again. I think, to put it simply, you're back in the at-large conversation with a win in Reno. That's what I would say. There's work to be done regardless of whether they win or lose, a lot of work. But I think you're back in the at-large conversation. Then you're feeling great about just where you are in the league. If you win tomorrow in Reno, it will not be easy. Nevada has some of the better wins in the league. They've beaten Boise. They have beaten Colorado State. They are 3-0 overall. So it's 3-0 San Diego State, 3-0 Nevada. That is coming up tomorrow night from Reno at 8 p.m. with pregame coverage beginning at 7. We may have an Aztec assistant join us in 10 minutes. They're going to be en route to Reno later on this afternoon. So we'll keep you updated on that. Now, Phillip Rivers, his career as a player is over.
Again
for like the third time or the second time. Phillip Rivers, his career as a player is over. And I didn't play yesterday. Who played Riley Leonard, former Duke and
threw
Notre Dame
touchdown his
quarterback.
first pass.
Yeah, they ended up losing the game, but whatever. So Phillip Rivers was watching on the sideline, and then we saw the reports yesterday that were coming out that Phillip Rivers is likely to draw attention as soon as this coaching cycle to be a head coach in the NFL. So he had been coaching in a high school for the last few years since retiring. And of course, now he dipped his toe back in as a player and now could be getting interest as a potential head coach this cycle. Now, Brent's told you throughout the course of the updates this afternoon that it is Black Monday and you've had already a handful of changes in the league. You always will. I mean, I kind of like it, to be honest with you. I think about who he is as an individual. He's such a likable figure. Was he the best quarterback of his generation? Of course not. Was he very good and respected? Absolutely. And I think there's something about his interactions with teammates and players that makes him very likable. And I think there's something to be said for it. Now, I don't know how good he would be ultimately. I don't know how long for the league he would be as a head coach, but I could see it in the right situation with the right opportunity. I just wouldn't want him to be set up to fail. Because in the NFL, you're only given 18 to 30 games. You're given between a season and a season and a half to make it work. You could be hired and fired within the same calendar year, potentially, or within 12 months. So I like it on its face. I'm not fully convinced it would work, but I'm also not convinced that it wouldn't work. What do you think of it, Brent? The idea of Phillip Rivers as an NFL head coach?
For me, it's just weird because usually you have to have either college experience or, you've been an NFL coordinator or an assistant coach of some form, and then you get the head coaching job. But from him just to go from, coaching high school football and was it Alabama is where he is, to all of a sudden, head coaching in the NFL just seems like a really big jump.
It's a massive jump.
So that's my whole thing. And, I Googled it. But Jeff Saturday is about the only person I could find that ever got hired with no head coaching experience. And he wasn't around very long. That's why he's back at ESPN. But I don't know. It just seems like it's just would be a weird jump to where if you did it, it would almost be more like it was for almost like a publicity stunt,
like to sell
in a way
or something.
Yeah, because you're going to hire somebody that if his name wasn't Phillip Rivers, you wouldn't even consider hiring some dude from a high school in Alabama to coach the Giants or something like that. So that's my whole thing is just and where his 2-3 games that he came back here in the last 2 weeks makes people think that he wants to coach.
And here's the other thing. Well, I think he's now on the record today saying he would have an interest in coaching. I saw it somewhere earlier that at least he would consider it. But here's the thing, and this is always is the case. I mean, when you're looking for a new head coach, you're not going to the best franchises in the league. So, do you really want the Raiders job? You really want the Browns job? You really want the Titans job? Are you set up to fail? You really want the Giants job? They won it 10 years.
Well, it's another thing too, kind of like how we were talking about Shildt in the first hour, to where, look, it's great when you're in high school and you're coaching high school because a lot of these kids, they want to learn. and you being in, NFL, and you'll be, not first ballot, but you'll be a Hall of Famer someday in the NFL. They're going to listen to you, and they're going to hang on every word that you have to say. Even if you'd go coach in college, I think it would be the same way to a certain extent. That's not going to happen in the NFL. In the NFL, you already got grown men that they don't want to be taught anything. They don't want, they don't want to sit there and get lectured. They just want to play. So if he really has like the Shilty thing of, oh, I just want to, mentor young talent, and I just want to, develop this young talent, I think he'd be better off staying in high school or trying to get a, gig in the, in college, opposed to going to the NFL where, yeah, you're a head coach, but you're not like really coaching. You're just doing X's and O's, and you're not like developing.
Yeah, I don't know. I think my concern, if I was a fan of Phillip Rivers, is I wouldn't want to see him get a job and be fired from said job because he didn't have the qualifications and he was out within a year.
They're setting him up to fail.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe you're set up to fail anywhere because you don't have, again, the head coaching acumen. I think to some extent that can be overcome as a CEO. But if Phillip Rivers is hired and fired within 1 year, that's not a good look for anyone involved, including Rivers or the organization that were to hire and fire him. But it was an interesting thing. I never thought Phillip Rivers would be in the news like this holiday season. Like, he had a very good career, and you were thinking about his Hall of Fame candidacy, and you knew he was coaching in Alabama. And I didn't think he'd be a big public figure moving forward. I didn't think he'd be in the limelight. And then boom, he's in the NFL. He's one of the biggest stories of the 2025 regular season. And now boom, it's the offseason, and he might be one of the bigger stories of the offseason if he's actually going to interview or potentially take a job as a head coach in the NFL. We're going back to the Aztecs on the other side. Dave Velasquez will join us, the longtime Aztec assistant, San Diego State, en route to Reno this afternoon. I think they're at the airport. In fact, Dave Velasquez will stop by and check in with us on the other side. We'll talk about that triple overtime win over Boise State. What will it take to win in Reno tomorrow against this Wolfpack team that is 3-0 in the Mountain West? So Dave Velasquez on the other side. Will Brinson, much more in the NFL, and Phillip Rivers. He will join us coming up at 4:30. Don't go anywhere. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by Mothers Against Drunk Driving. The Aztecs are on the road tomorrow night when they take on Nevada. Our pregame coverage will begin at 7 o'clock. John will have the tip a little after 8. It was Black Monday today in the NFL as 4 teams gave their head coaches the axe. Arizona, Vegas, Cleveland, and Atlanta all fired their head coaches. They joined the Titans and the Giants, who fired their head coaches earlier in the season. Arizona held on to the number 1 spot by a single point over a fast-closing Michigan team in the AP Top 25 poll, making it one of the closest races in the for the top spot in the 78-year history of the poll. The Wildcats received 32 of 61 first-place votes, while Michigan scooped up the other 29 first-place votes from the national media. The 1-point difference kept it from being the first poll to be tied for number 1 since 1981, when Oregon State and Virginia tied for the top spot. For victims of drunk and drugged driving, your grief is unique, but you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call the 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
All right, San Diego State tomorrow night is going to be in Reno to take on the University of Nevada. So the Aztecs getting ready for Nevada tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Pregame coverage at 7, coming off just this bonkers, wacky, wild, epic win over Boise State. I know the team's attention is on Nevada, but I have to ask Dave Velasquez about Saturday first. We've got the longtime assistant on the Mesa, Dave Velasquez, back with us right now on San Diego Sports 760. Coach, I always appreciate you taking time for us. I know you're about to be en route to Reno, but You've been around for a long time, right? At San Diego State. How many games have you been a part of, like the one that played out Saturday night?
Well, obviously not many. I mean, in anybody's career, you're not going to have too many of those type of games. And I think you missed about 76 other adjectives to use to describe that game. I think incredible is one of them. Amazing. I mean, it was as wild as it comes. But at the same time, I mean, somebody had to win that game, and we're fortunate and we're lucky to be the ones that came out on top. And there's so many different things you could point at to how it ended up in that situation for both teams. But at the end of the day, one of us had to win. And like I said, happy it was us.
Dave Velasquez with us right now here on San Diego Sports 760. Over the course of a season, you're always learning about your team. But what about over the course of a game? Like what does it take to be in that spot? And at one point, the deck is stacked against you. I mean, it goes from looking really good to not looking very good. What does it take when you're in those spots to overcome the adversity and find ways to win?
Yeah, I mean, it shows a lot of character. I mean, that was one of the things. And you could say the same thing about them, about how they came out in the second half. And really, it was not even just the second half. In the first 5 minutes, we played pretty well defensively. It was kind of that last 15 minutes. They went through an unbelievable stretch. But for us, it showed a lot of our, again, showed our depth, showed that, when we need all our pieces to win. It was unfortunate that we lost Magoon with about 11 minutes to go in the game, which just wasn't feeling okay. He took a little hit to his hip early in the game. I mean, he came out, he was awesome. He was 3 for 3 from the field. He had 2 threes. I mean, he was, doing pretty well defensively, and then to lose him and have other guys step up. And at the same time, we had no Tay Simmons, who was hurt that night. And so, again, you hear all about our depth all year, and then that night's where it really showed to me on how many pieces we have that can help us win. But at the same time, John, you know me well enough. I'm not positive Pam here when I come to our team at all times. I mean, we got to be better. We got to be more consistent. We got to put 40 minutes together. You can't, have a Arizona type situation, 3 games or 2, the third game after Arizona, where you play this awesome first half or you play to the standard you expect to play to. Let's not say awesome. You play to a standard that we expect to play to. And then unfortunately in the second half, to our defensive standard, to give up 50 points to anybody in one 20-minute half, it's not good enough. So there's a lot of positives that we learned. There's also some things that obviously we knew about that we have to continue to harp on. And as a program, from coaches, players, everybody involved, that we have to find a way to play 40-minute games, because that's what it takes to win.
Dave Velasquez with us right now on Jon and Jim. So we learned today from the league that BJ Davis was named Player of the Week, deservedly so. What he did down the stretch, I thought, against San Jose State, and of course the plays he made. I mean, that was one of the great, just overall plays. Dutch talked on this a little bit post game, but can you speak on just that it's not just an individual effort, but the play he made there from the RJ Keene pass that he intercepted and then him hitting that shot. Can you just speak to his evolvement, I guess, over the course of his junior year?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a big time moment for BJ. To in both games, you mentioned San Jose State, and then you mentioned Boise and that play he made. The play he made to me was, you can look at Coach Dutch and I. There's a reason we watch a lot of film. I mean, there's two different ways they line up. They either line up in football, which they did the time before, which you line up everybody out of bounds, or they line up that way and they expect to go deep. And if you were to rewatch it from the angle, it's you got Dutch and I pointing like they're throwing it deep, and BJ looks over at us and he goes and steals the pass and makes an unbelievable. And he used to be a football player, by the way. His dad's a football coach, brother's a football player. Like BJ's got football in his blood. I mean, you look like a free safety out there making that play and picking that play off. And he comes down, and I thought the most impressive thing, and if you can think back on it, the guy played really good defense the entire possession. He caught his first move one time. BJ went to crossover. He's still in front of him and doesn't panic. He finds a way to get back to his 2 or 3 dribble in and out crossover to get to what his favorite shot is. And, we always say, get to your favorite stuff, get to your favorite stuff in those moments, especially into shot clock, into half, like get to your favorite move. And to get to his favorite move at that point in the game was just so huge. And he's so clutch, and he's just a real hooper. He's one of those guys. He just loves hoop. He has unbelievable instincts about him. He's one of those things. He's one of those guys, and people that you don't teach a lot of the stuff he does. You recruit it. Go get a bucket, BJ, and go do it your way. Go get one. And he's hard to guard, and those are the hardest type of players to guard is when you can't really scout what he does because you can do it in so many different ways. And BJ's been awesome for us. I mean, I saw something today that he's has the highest free throw rate on our team, and getting to the line, and he's top 10 in our league, and he's going to be, we need him. We need the best version of BJ. And he's been awesome coming off the bench as that 6-man, kind of a massive scoring punch that we need. And last year he come from being a starter to come off the bench and producing at the way he is. I mean, why would you don't want to mess with that? I mean, he's producing at a level that's unbelievable. So we want to keep this rolling and keep his, the momentum that he has going as we go into our Nevada game.
It's interesting you say that. Dave Velasquez with us right now. San Diego State, Nevada tomorrow night, another conference game and a big one for the Aztecs in the Mountain West, a couple of 3-0 teams in the league. Starting or coming off the bench gets so much discussion, I think, just in basketball in general, high school, college, pro. But it's not like some of these other sports where it's like, well, if you're the starting pitcher in baseball, you're going to get a lion's share of the innings unless things don't go well. I mean, you could come off the bench and play 39 minutes and 59 seconds, theoretically. Does it deserve the amount of attention it receives? I know it means a lot to the players too. I get it. I'm sure they want to start. But at the end of the day, you've had some brilliant players over the course of this program's history that have played a lot of quote unquote bench minutes. Is it something that deserves the amount of attention it receives or not?
No.
Right.
To be honest, I mean, not at all. It would be if he's getting cut down way down on minutes or he wasn't, you're saying, okay, well, he could do even more had he been starting. It's like the efficiency numbers, his ability to defend 94 feet. I mean, everything about what BJ's doing is so good. It's you almost don't want to mess with that rhythm. I mean, he's being able to see the game and as it's going, and then he's coming off and he's playing longer stretches than the starters. Our starters usually come out by that, say, first media is at the 16-minute, somewhere between that 14 to 16-minute mark. When BJ goes in, I mean, he's not coming out until 7-8 minutes.
Right.
I mean, he's playing longer stretches. That first stretch is longer than a starter. So if you really go back and like really break it down, to me, it's not that I don't know. I don't read a lot and see a lot, but to us internally, no, it's not a, people are talking about it that much. We don't see it. I don't know about it. I think what we're doing right now is we're playing really good offense at times, and a lot of it has to do with BJ's role that he's in right now, and he's kicking butt doing it.
I got 2 more for you because I know you're about to board a flight. Can we talk 3-point strategy for a second? Just what to do with the 3-point lead, because this has come up as well. So Boise elects not to foul before BJ Davis hits that straight on 3. And I get it. Fouling can be very damaging. You foul in the wrong spot, guy hits a shot, all of a sudden you can lose the game in that instance, then San Diego State later in the game in the third overtime elects also not to foul. And I think by and large, that's been the strategy under Dutch over the last 8 or 9 seasons. What goes into it, that determination? Some teams are going to foul in the final few seconds with a 3-point lead. Other teams won't. Why or why not?
I think, well, first of all, you got to realize that over time with all the data we have, analytically, it all just depends, and for us, where we're at right now, what I mean by analytically, it's just not a surefire way to win or lose the game, whether you foul or not. There's been enough data out there that says that you can go basically either way, and it kind of depends on a few factors. One of the factors we talk about is, John, you've been at every game or seen every game.
Yep.
We are not very good on free throw box outs. It is what it is. I'm sure other teams show it, but it feels like every game we give up a rebound on a missed free throw. Something we're very well aware of. We weren't very good at it last year. We worked all summer on it. We're still, for whatever reason, we are not very good free throw box out. So now you have a team that has to get a rebound on a missed free throw, a purposely missed free throw. We have to get that rebound. So you can start there. The second thing that you don't want to do, which if you saw the Notre Dame Cal game, which the Notre Dame coach talked about a little bit after, where he hit the and one, is if you don't practice it enough, like if it's not in your DNA, where you're going through it 3-4 times a week, where you've done it 20 to 30 times at practice in pressure situational situations, it's really hard to execute during the game. It's really hard. It sounds a lot easier than it is. And then the last thing is, it's kind of, who are you playing? At that point in the game, I don't think either team was wrong not fouling personally. Where we were at, you said, what are we in third overtime for us?
Right.
I mean, you got to run all these plays and you got to find a way to get over shot. Once you got to have the legs to make, you got to have the rhythm in the legs. And so to me, there's a lot of things that go into that, and it's probably way too deep of an answer, but yeah, San Diego State in past years has fouled a lot, but we also not fouled. We've also not fouled. Coach Steve Fisher was 100% of the time he was going to foul, but we worked on it all the time, and since Coach Dutch has taken over, do we most likely foul? Sure. But do we always foul? No.
I like that. That was a very good breakdown. I appreciate it. All right, one more. Nevada tomorrow. Nevada, like a lot of these teams in college basketball and even in the Mountain West, there's just a lot of turnover. That's just the nature of the business right now. And you look at what they've done, and they've been awfully impressive, obviously. The Boise home win by 15. They went to Colorado State and won going away. Elijah Price, the Fresno State transfer, has played very well for them. Corey Camper as well, others. What is it going to take tomorrow? What do you see from the Nevada Wolfpack?
The thing that people ask me, is Nevada better than last year? We handled them pretty good in the 2 times we played them. They're way better. They have more scoring from the guard spots. The players that they had returning are playing better than they did last year. Elijah Price is, if the season ended tomorrow, he's probably defensive player of the year in our league with his ability to block shots and just affect the game in multiple ways. So they're just a better basketball team. And the thing that's the most impressive and commend them with is they brought in all these type of scorers and guys that really want to shoot, and guys that came from everywhere they came from. They're getting a lot of shots, and if they left, they were trying to be the guy that got a lot of shots. But their togetherness on defense, and they're able to be so physical with you. I believe that they've given up in our 3 conference games that they've played 65 points, 62 points, 66 points. That's a life I'm used to, John.
Yeah.
Or we're all used to around here at San Diego State. And those type of teams that can hold teams in the 60s consistently end up at the top of this league. And they're doing a great job defensively right now. And that to me is where they've made their biggest strides with the guys they had coming in, with the returning guys they had back. Their defense is what's separating them right now in the league in their 3 league games. And then also when you have a bunch of guys that know how to get a bucket, like we just said about BJ Davis, just guys that can just break you down into shot clock, break out of a play and just go get you one. It makes everybody look good, and it makes everybody feel good when the ball's going in.
Really good insight. Looking forward to tomorrow night, this showdown. They're all big games. This is included tomorrow night, 8 p.m. San Diego State in Reno taking on Nevada, a game you can hear right here on San Diego Sports 760. Dave, always appreciate the time. Safe travels. I will see you tomorrow in Reno.
I appreciate it, John. Thanks for having me, and go Aztecs.
All right, great stuff. Really great stuff from Dave Velasquez. All right, we'll get to Is That Good? The best and worst of the sports weekend on the other side. The wrap coming up at 4 p.m. Will Brinson, our senior NFL writer from CBS Sports, our NFL insider, will join us coming up at 4:30. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760. All right, starting next Monday, San Diego Sports 760 has 16 chances for you to win $1,000 every weekday. It's the Bonus Bucks contest. Listen at the top of every hour, 6 a.m. through 6 p.m. starting next Monday. Listen for the keyword, then enter it at sportssc.com. It starts next Monday at 6 a.m. Will Brinson will join us, senior NFL writer, CBS Sports. He'll join us at 4:30. We'll get to Is That Good and the wrap coming up momentarily. Good conversation there with Dave Velasquez. The Aztecs will get a serious opportunity and test tomorrow night when they take on the Nevada Wolfpack in Reno. So that's a big game for both of those teams. Both are 3-0 to start Mountain West play. San Diego State and Nevada coming up tomorrow at 8. Pregame coverage will begin at 7 p.m. All right, we are here until 6 p.m. And right now, why don't we get to this?
Is That Good? Wilcox, snapper, Huber, holder, from 29 yards away. Oh, he missed it badly. Kick on the way. Boswell. That's a winner. The good and bad from the sports weekend.
Brent, I'll put you on the fly. If you want to add one at the end, you can. If there's something that comes to mind for this weekend, Bears related, whatever. You can add one on the fly if you want. All right, the best and worst of the sports weekend. We just touched on this. BJ Davis is in the midst of like a heater. The Aztecs junior guard coming off the bench. He's fourth in the nation in points per game off the bench at 13.7. He scored 20 points per game in the last week in being named Mountain West Player of the Week. And he had the play of plays for the Aztecs this year, a steal followed by a game-tying 3 with 0.4 seconds left in overtime to save the game on Saturday that the Aztecs ultimately won in 3 overtimes over Boise State. So BJ Davis just being BJ Davis. Is that good?
It is good.
All right, so he's been terrific. They'll need him to be terrific again tomorrow night in Reno. Speaking of the NFL, we talked about this earlier. We will again with Will Brinson at 4:30. Tyler Loop, the young kicker for the Ravens, replacing Justin Tucker. Perfect this year inside 50 yards all season long. In the first 16 games of the regular season, he had a 44-yarder to send Baltimore to a division title and to a home playoff game. Or, of course, if he missed it, they were out of the postseason entirely. And for the first time all year, he missed from inside 50 yards in Pittsburgh last night. Final play of the game. Is that good?
No, it's not good. Are you kidding me?
Unless you're Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh. I cannot imagine being there as a Steelers fan because you got to think that thing's over. 44-yarder at the buzzer, but they live to see another day.
So does Mike Tomlin, potentially.
So does Mike Tomlin, who was rumored to maybe go into like television after yesterday or be out of a job or coaching elsewhere.
He would have been like the first Steelers coach to ever get fired.
Right, because they've only had like 4 ever, right?
Yeah, 3 or 4.
Chuck Noll and Mike Tomlin, maybe one of. I mean, they've only had 3 forever.
What's his name?
Oh,
Cowher.
Bill Cowher. I mean, yeah, they're a ridiculous franchise in terms of winning. Like when you think about a consistent winning franchise in the history of the sport, there's other franchises that have won more than them, but there's no franchise in the history of the sport that's been more consistent than the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then finally from me is, did you see this yesterday? Yesterday on social media, the Arizona Cardinals wished their head coach, Jonathan Gannon, a happy birthday. Yesterday, less than 24 hours later, they announced on social media and elsewhere he had been fired. Is that good?
No, it's not good. Are you
I guess
kidding
it's
me?
not their fault his birthday was yesterday.
Well, they're not going to wish him a happy birthday after they fire him. That'd just be awkward, John.
Should they, I guess with the benefit of hindsight or like retrospectively, should they have fired him yesterday? No, but then they sent out the birthday tweet. They played yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And some teams played Saturday. They didn't. So they played yesterday. He got the birthday tweet and congratulations. And then 12, 18 hours later, bye-bye.
They gave him a card with like $10 and it was like, hey,
here's your
don't spend it all in one place. That's all I'm going to say.
This is what I would say to kind of defend the Cardinals. This is the business of the NFL in sports. You're hired to later be fired unless you're the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. They know what they're getting into. They're paid handsomely. These are hard jobs, but also enviable jobs. The salaries are not low, even for a Jonathan Gannon. I'm sure he was making millions of dollars a year. He understands what the expectations are. If it's a business of winning in college, it's certainly a business of winning in professional sports. And I think people understand that. It's the nature of it. There's a reason this is called Black Monday. In fact, by league history standards, this is not some all-time day. What if we had, Brent, 4 firings today?
Yes, 4.
4 firings. I mean, there have been days with 6, 7, 8 in the history of the league. So now I know there's 5 or 6 openings overall right now, but this isn't a historic Black Monday, but you basically turn over a quarter of the league every year because you have 4 today is only 1/8 of the league out of 32, but you add in some of the jobs that came open during the year. And now it's, 6. And in other years, it's been 7 or 8. So it's turning over maybe 20 to 25% of the league every year. That is serious, serious churn. 1 in 4 coaches are turning over every year. That is serious, serious churn. And that's part of the business. And I kind of kid, obviously, with the Arizona Cardinals. Did you have anything you wanted to throw in there, Brent? No, you're good. Try to think. So Bears, we talked about this off air. Brent's a lifelong Bears fan, obviously. They now know their first round playoff opponent here. And I saw this in real time. It's less about the opponent and more about the network. They are playing, it's Saturday night, right?
Yeah.
They're playing Saturday night on Amazon Prime.
The one streaming service that I don't have between my house and work. So
and
naturally.
It's Packers Bears. It's Packers Bears for a lot of marbles. Only one team is winning this game. Now it's going to be in Chicago, obviously. Wherever it was, it's the Midwest in the winter, and it's Packers and it's Bears, and it's Saturday night on Amazon Prime. So what's the plan? Figure it out.
I'll probably just have to get Prime for a month. It works out because I need to watch Fallout Season 2 anyways. So I guess I'll just.
What's Prime? Is Prime still have the ad-supported Prime and then the no ad? Like there's 2 price tiers to it.
So yeah,
it's probably like $10 to $12 for like the ad.
Prime is expensive. That's why I don't have it. It's like. Up there with, it's like Netflix expensive. That's why I haven't gotten it.
Yeah, Amazon Prime is $14.99 is what it starts at. I think 14. Yeah, that's not cheap. That's really not cheap. And of course, the NFL. I mean, seriously, to watch every NFL game this year. Now that they've put the games again on Netflix. Now that will they put a playoff game on Peacock? Like they?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so to watch every NFL game this year, it takes a lot more than just having cable because now you need Prime, you need Netflix, you need Peacock. It takes a good amount to watch every NFL game.
I haven't seen yet, but I assume everyone back home is losing their minds.
Oh, they have to be losing their mind.
Because
absolutely.
They would throw a fit if Green Bay played a week 12 game on Prime. They would throw a fit because it's on Prime and they don't get Prime and all that other stuff. So the fact that it's Bears Packers playoffs is going to be on Prime. There's going to be a lot of people calling their grandkids and their kids asking, how do I put Amazon? How do I put the Amazon Prime on the TV?
Spot on. 100% right. All right, we'll get to the wrap on the other side. Will Brinson with much more on Wild Card Weekend. He'll join us. Our NFL insider from CBS Sports will join us coming up at 4:30. We're here until 6. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760 and the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by unbound.org. San Diego State is on the road tomorrow night when they take on Nevada. Our pregame coverage starts right here at 7 o'clock. John will have the tip after 8. It was Black Monday in the NFL as 4 teams gave their head coaches the axe today. Arizona, Vegas, Cleveland, and the Falcons all fired their head coaches. They joined the Titans and the Giants, who got rid of their head coaches earlier in the season. Arizona held on to the number 1 spot by a single point over a fast-closing Michigan team in the AP Top 25, making it one of the closest races for the top spot in the 78-year history of the poll. The Wildcats picked up 32 of 61 first-place votes, while the Wolverines got the other 29 votes from the national media. The 1-point difference kept the poll from becoming only the second time ever where the poll ended in a tie. The only other time was Oregon State and Virginia tied for the top spot in 1981. Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
All right, San Diego, Southern California, what's going on? Hour 3. John Schaefer, Brent Sperry, San Diego Sports 760. First full week without Jim Russell, right? Start of 2026. We've had Jim with us each and every week by and large, unless he was like off, since the start of 2022. But Jim, spoiler alert, moved to Philadelphia. So the first full week without Jim is underway. Now, we will have some announcements for you coming up early in 2026. Now, when, stay tuned. What those announcements will entail, also stay tuned. Now, we're going to be doing a show each and every afternoon. We're going nowhere. So stay tuned. I will have a co-host at some point, hopefully early in 2026. So things in the works, but not completed is what I would say. But things are in the works here on San Diego Sports 760. Appreciate your listenership. We're not going to be able to do this if you're not going to be here for us. So appreciate it through the, through the turnover, through the change. We'll be here for you in 2026 and beyond. Before we get to the wrap, and Will Brinson's going to join us coming up at 4:30, I did want to make mention of Trey White. So Trey White went into the transfer portal. San Diego State's outstanding edge rusher. I mean, one of the best to ever do it on the Mesa. 19.5 sacks the last 2 years. A terrific player, and probably more importantly, not probably, a terrific person. We've had the good fortune of having him on this show a number of times. I've had the opportunity to speak with him off air and on air before. He's a terrific individual. He's out of San Diego, made the most of his opportunity here with San Diego State, and announced earlier today on social media that he has, in fact, transferred to Texas Tech. A school with significant resources that's been very active in this NIL rev share era that's only a couple of years old. Texas Tech has been one of the most aggressive schools in the country. So we wish Trey White the best. And I really do. I think here's what's changed for me over the years. And I think maybe it's changed for some Aztec fans and just college fans in general. And for some, it hasn't. I'm not going to tell you how to be a fan. For me, I truly feel that it's all about what's best for the players. Like I cannot and will not be critical of an individual's decision to move on for another opportunity. Just like I wouldn't be critical if, Jim moved on for another opportunity, or if Brent had a chance to earn 2 or 3 or 4 times more anyone elsewhere, or if anyone had that chance. I mean, can you imagine in your line of work right now, if you're listening to me and let's say you're a truck driver and you got a chance to double up your salary by taking a job with another trucking company? Or let's say you're an accountant and you've got a chance to triple up what you make. I mean, by and large, most Americans in the middle of their career would take the advantage to make another 25% annually, let alone 100% or 200%. How can we not say the same for those that are 18, 20, 22, 23 years of age that have a chance to change their lives potentially with that one decision? So whatever the determination is, last year Trey White elected to stay. I thought it was beneficial, and I'm sure he felt the same way. His decision to stay may have provided him with more opportunities this offseason, like this Texas Tech chance, and maybe it gives him a better chance professionally moving forward as well. But to me, it's not fair or reasonable to be critical when 40% of all college football players are in the portal. And I'm going to sit here and be like, how could this player go in the portal? This school did everything for this individual, and now no, that's not it. It's just it's not the world we're living in. It's a new world. I get it. It takes some adjusting for fans and media members and players alike. But I was never critical of Lamont Butler. I thought Lamont Butler did so much for San Diego State. He spent 4 years on the Mesa, has a San Diego State degree. So he elected to go to Kentucky for his final year. That was his right, his choice. How can we be critical of that? Because he didn't spend 5 years somewhere? And on the other side of that, are we sitting here when players come to the Mesa in football and basketball and say, oh man, wow, they left their school and came here? No, we by and large celebrate that movement and say, wow, this player can really help in this capacity. So Trey White's not the only player, obviously, that's on the move this offseason. Owen Chambliss, a linebacker, and others. And there were players on the move last offseason, and there will be again next offseason. And that's in all sports, including football and men's basketball. But wishing Trey White and others a lot of success. And I think from Sean Lewis's perspective, he's got the building blocks and foundation of a very good program. And he proved that on field this past year by going from 3-9 to 9-4. And I think he's going to have a lot of the pieces that are necessary back. He's going to build off of that and hopefully put San Diego State in a position to win towards the top of the Pac-12 in 2026. But two things can be true. You wish Trey White well, and you hope San Diego State will have equal success, if not more success, on the football field in 2026. All right, Will Brinson will join us in less than 30 minutes, but right now, let's get to this.
It's time for the wrap. Presented by Sombrero Mexican Food. Check out their website at sombreromex.com.
Which AFC team is going to reach the Super Bowl?
All right, so in terms of more of a gauntlet, I mean, it's kind of interesting the way I look at it. I thought the NFC had a lot of similar teams. I feel like the AFC might be top heavy, I guess, at this point. Is it Broncos or Patriots? I mean, I'm not taking Jacksonville seriously. I'm sorry. I can't do that. I can't take, obviously, Pittsburgh seriously. There's no chance in hell. So to me, it's between the Broncos and the Patriots, and I would take the Patriots with home field advantage in that equation. So and that's an amazing story for New England to be 14-3, to be in this position, to be 2 games clear of the Bills. I think the only other team you're thinking about other than the Broncos and the Patriots is Buffalo, obviously. Is Buffalo going to beat New England at New England this postseason with Josh Allen? I mean, they've got the experience. He's been there before, but he hasn't taken advantage of it. I'm going to take New England, which, by the way, New England was perfect on the road and 6-3 at home. But I'm going to take New England to get to the Super Bowl here in 2026. What do you think about that?
I don't trust a lot of, like you said, I don't trust Denver. I don't trust Jacksonville. I don't trust the Texans or the Steelers. And I don't know about the Patriots. For me, it's the Bills lose. Josh Allen has kind of, you want to give him the Jordan comparison. He's been trying to get past the Pistons for a while now. There's no Pistons in there this year. So this, on paper, you would think is his best chance to make the Super Bowl because there's no Mahomes or any, none of the obstacles, no Lamar Jackson, nothing that stood in his way in previous years is there. And we have just a bunch of teams that are going to be making like their first playoff runs in a long time. I think that might make a difference. I'm going to go with the Bills just because of the experience, and I don't trust a lot of the other teams in the AFC.
I agree with what you're saying, and I think it comes down to Patriots or Bills. I think a lot of people would like to see the Bills take that next step under Josh Allen, and I would say if he doesn't take the next step right now, will he ever take that next step? Next question.
Same question, NFC.
All right, which NFC team is going to reach the Super Bowl? You know what? Maybe it's recency bias. I'm taking Seattle. I think they are a very well-rounded team. They did not play perfect football. They left so many points out there on Saturday night. They had to leave 17 points out there, certainly 13, and they still won convincingly in San Francisco, led by their defense. I think they have the parts to do it. They'll have the home field advantage that is necessary to do it. It is a gauntlet. I can make the case for... San Francisco's going to be tough now going through the road. Philadelphia's been through the battles over the years, obviously. Chicago's had this incredible year, but I think, and the Rams might have the most potent offense, and they've got the veteran quarterback, but I'm going to take Seattle as the top seed in the NFC to get to the Super Bowl this year. What do you think?
I like the Rams.
Yeah.
NFC is the 49ers, just all the injuries keep piling up. They had another one. Now that the
linebacker out.
The one that was already replacing their previously injured linebacker. Now he's out. So I think that all the injuries and stuff are going to eventually come back and bite the Niners in the ass in the playoffs. I don't trust the Eagles this year unless they're just pulling one of those Shaq Kobe things where, they're just so bored in the regular season. Yeah, they're just waiting for the postseason to start. And I don't trust the Bears just because Ben Johnson goes for it too much on fourth down. And I think that could, really be an Achilles heel in the playoffs because, if we get it, it's going to be great. But if we don't pick up the fourth down conversions, it's going to hurt us.
By the way, real quick, Brent, this is a little bit of an aside. 858 on our text line says the Bears-Packers game you can watch on Twitch for free.
But then I have to get Twitch.
Free. Well, worth it.
I'll look into it.
Yeah, look into that. I should do some research on that. It says Bears-Packers available on Twitch for free. All right, next question.
Do the Padres still need to make a big move?
I don't know if they need to make a quote-unquote big move or not, whether that's via free agency or via trade. Again, the big move so far is Michael King, but I also wonder what value is that going to have immediately in 2026. Coming off the injury, I don't think he gets back to like 180 innings, but I think he can be very impactful maybe with 140-plus innings. They need to add to the rotation, so I would refer to that as a significant move. I mean, it could be under the radar like Nick Pivetta last year because that paid off. But yeah, they need to make something sizable. I think they either need to add a sizable bat. Talked about Kazuma Okamoto. He goes elsewhere. Or they need to add a piece to the rotation or maybe both. So again, it doesn't have to be some flashy trade or some $100 million signing, but I think they still need to do a move or two of significance. There's still time. It's quiet. We're just after New Year's Day, but they're certainly not done. I know that. I'd like to see them end the offseason with something of significance because I still think they need to complete this roster, whether it's with a slugger at the back of this lineup or with a piece in their rotation for 2026.
I'd like to see them do something opposed to just wait until they get to spring training and then, fill in the holes as spring training is going on. I'd like to know who our first baseman is, going into spring training instead of just going into spring training like, all right, we still need this, and this. And now that spring training started, we're pretty much bare bones with, what's left in the cupboard to choose from.
All right, next question.
Is tomorrow a must-win game for the Aztecs?
No, it's not. San Diego State, even with a non-conference where they lost to Troy at home and, again, lost to the top two teams in America in Michigan and Arizona, and then didn't take advantage of the Baylor opportunity in Las Vegas. They obviously don't have to be perfect in the Mountain West Conference. They're going to have to be very good, though. And I do think, here's where they are right now. I think most pundits, most bracketologists, that's my first usage of the word this year. I didn't use it much late last year either because San Diego State wasn't putting themselves necessarily in that early conversation for bracketology. Most bracketologists, if not all, wouldn't even have San Diego State on the bubble right now. They'd be on the outside looking into the bubble. I think you win tomorrow, and all of a sudden you're in that bubble conversation. Now, again, you need to get to that conversation at some point, and you want to do it sooner rather than later. So tomorrow goes a long way for me. Certainly doesn't get you in the NCAA tournament, and I think by losing, you're not out of the NCAA tournament as an at-large team either. But Aztecs have real work to do. They've taken advantage of the start of league play by going 3-0. They're going to have to go on a run, and maybe that run is right now to start league play. So not a must-win, but an important game to put yourself back in that bracket conversation. Again, not putting you in the field, but here's the thing. It's only early January. So you'll have opportunities to continue to play yourself into that field potentially between now and Selection Sunday. Speaking of the Aztecs, we'll hear from BJ Davis. If you missed my postgame conversation with BJ, the star for the Aztecs, one of the stars in that triple overtime win over Boise State, you'll hear from BJ Davis coming up. Will Brinson will join us. We'll talk about wildcard weekend in the NFL at 4:30, plus a developing story involving the future of the Midway District in the arena in San Diego, a story that will never go away. We have some resolution there. Is that good or bad for sports fans? We'll share that with you on the other side right here on San Diego Sports 760. All right. We're going to hear from BJ Davis coming up. San Diego State junior guard had that big game for the Aztecs Saturday night. Before we get to that, Brent, we might do that after Will Brinson, because there's a story that somebody mentioned on our text line. It was 858 says, John, the California Supreme Court kept the 30-foot height limit restriction in place for the Midway District. No new arena in San Diego. It's days like this that sometimes you see what Dean Spanos went through. I'm not going to sit here and defend Dean Spanos because of the 30-foot height limit being remaining in place for San Diego. But basically, what does this mean? What does this height limit being maintained in San Diego mean? It means that the future, I guess, of the arena in the Midway District remains in flux. Now, I don't think we have ever said, whether it was me or Jim or Brent, I've never sat here and been like, man, once this height limit's overturned, man, trust me, they're going to build like a $2 billion arena, and you wait till you see the NHL and NBA teams. We'll have multiple of both. We're going to have 2 NBA teams. We're going to have 2 NHL teams. Nobody's ever said that. It was already among the longer putts imaginable for San Diego to get an NBA or NHL team. But John, don't John me anything. The NBA is on record now for wanting to expand, right? Like the NBA is likely going to announce expansion at some point in 2026. But John, if the height limit was overturned, wouldn't San Diego be considered? No. Why would San Diego? You've seen everything that has been said. Las Vegas has been a front runner for an expansion franchise. Seattle has already spent their money on the arena and remains a front runner for an expansion franchise. Maybe there's a city or two I'm missing in there. Like, it would take a perfect storm. You'd have to have the arena done. The NBA is not going to expand and be like, Seattle has their arena done. Las Vegas has arenas and would build one at a moment's notice if necessary to lower the league. Kansas City has like the Sprint Center. There's other cities, I'm sure, in America that have modern, NBA or NHL arenas that are ready. Like San Diego, you're not going to get an expansion franchise because there's some ballot measure that gives you the opportunity to build a new arena. Like that could be 3, 5, 7, 11 years down the road. Now that this height limit has been restored and there is a height limit in place, there is no reasonable path to the NBA or the NHL. But we never thought there was a reasonable path to the NBA or the NHL. And there's so many factors working against San Diego. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that San Diego gets looped into this. Well, it's Southern California like LA. It's not necessary to put, an NFL franchise there after the Chargers left, or, the NHL already has a team in Anaheim, or why would we put an NBA team there? There's 2 in Los Angeles. Now, in the Northeast, you've got the Washington, Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York, Boston corridor, which is only a few hundred miles, yet you've got 5, 6, 7 teams across multiple leagues in that quote unquote corridor. But in San Diego, it's like you're in that corner and you get written off. And there's other factors at play, like height limit. There's all kinds of factors at play as well. But again, was I sitting here like, man, I'm so glad to have a sports talk show in San Diego because the NBA is coming, because the NHL is coming? No, I mean, I thought it was always a pipe dream. If it happens one day, great, that's unbelievable. But I don't think anyone is sitting there. Any San Diego sports fan is sitting there like, man, I can't wait for the NBA to get here in 2 years. I just never saw that as realistic.
I have the solution, John.
What do you have?
This is what they do. It can't go over 30 feet, right? So
dig.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You dig essentially like a basement, and when you enter the arena, you're going to go right down into stairs.
Like the pit.
Yes, exactly. So then you can pretty much build your arena and not go over the height limit. You're just going to have to kind of build it into the ground, so to speak.
You know the issue though.
I'm sure there's tons of zoning issues and crap like that.
It is close to the water where you're probably in like floodplains.
And I'm sure there's some endangered earthworm or something in there that they won't let us touch. Yeah.
It's already a tenuous situation where that arena is sitting right now. I don't think you're going deep like you are for the pit in Albuquerque or Viejas Arena. If you look at the way that building is built, if you walk in arena level, it gets sunk down. You're walking in and going down.
Yeah, Purdue's like that too.
Yeah, there's other arenas like that. But again, I don't think we need to hold our breath, is the point. I'm not saying will there be an arena at one point in San Diego that's more modern than the current arena that was built in like 1960 or the mid 60s? Yes. In some way, some form or fashion. I mean, you have Viejas Arena, for example. An arena could be built elsewhere that isn't quote unquote in that like coastal zone. But again, are we going to fast forward 2 years and see a brand new arena in San Diego with an NBA and an NHL team? That was never realistic, regardless of this Supreme Court ruling. All right, Will Brinson's going to join us coming up in 5 minutes. Let's sneak in a call from Dave, 877-767-4760. Dave, I appreciate you listening and calling in.
Hey, thanks again, John. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Jimmy R is doing okay. Hopefully he hasn't freezed too many of his canardies off yet. But,
Exactly.
hey, yeah, thanks for bringing this topic up.
Sure.
There needs to be light on it because so many people vote into office the very people that make these kinds of decisions and rules. And so, in essence, nothing surprises me. I wonder how the present arena gets to stand because it's in excess of 30 feet.
Right. Wasn't it from
why are they
before
not making a move to tear that down?
Wasn't it anything before
It got grandfathered.
It was grandfathered in because you've only had those coastal limitations for a period of time. And I don't know all about it. I'm sure we could look it up, but it's like anything, like Brent just said. I mean, the Coastal Commission hasn't existed since the beginning of time. So with new coastal rules came more coastal regulation, which obviously to some extent is understandable, but it also seems reasonable as you can build a new arena in San Diego. And I don't know what the future.
Well, it seems,
yeah. What's that?
Well, I was going to say, John, it seems to me that there are exceptions to everything, and there have been precedents already set by the Coastal Commission, by all the various boards and what have yous that are out there. So what they're asking us to do is to maintain a decrepit old arena and blight down in a area of town that is in sore need of some help. And so this is where you've got, and I don't mean to be political here, but here's the fact. And you've got everybody running the city of the same party. You would think that they could get on the phone and talk to each other. I mean, this is not some type of bipartisan conflict here.
Right.
I mean,
Dave,
these guys and gals that are sitting here, they're all from the same.
I appreciate you, man. Call back tomorrow. Let's talk more about it. We have Will Brinson on the other side. I think it's an interesting topic. I'm happy to discuss further. And again, it's not something that's getting resolved in 2026, unfortunately. And it's probably not good news for sports fans in San Diego either. All right, Will Brinson, our NFL insider on the other side. So much reaction. Ravens, Steelers, Niners losing at home to the Seahawks, wild card weekend. Will Brinson joins us next on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by Unbound.org. The Aztecs are back on the road tomorrow night when they take on Nevada. Our pregame coverage begins at 7 o'clock. John's going to have the tip after 8. In the NFL, it was Black Monday today, and 4 teams gave their head coaches the axe. Arizona, Vegas, Cleveland, and Atlanta all said goodbye to their coaches. They joined the Titans and the Giants, who fired their head coaches earlier in the season. In college basketball news, Arizona held on to the number 1 spot by a single point over Michigan in the AP Top 25 poll, making it one of the closest races for the top spot in the 78-year history of the poll. The Wildcats got 32 of 61 first-place votes, while Michigan scooped up the other 29. The 1-point difference almost made it the second time in the history of the poll that we had a tie at number 1. In 1981, Oregon State and Virginia tied for the top spot. Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
All right, let's get Will Brinson in here. No dull moments in the NFL. Wild card weekend is set. What a finish to the regular season. Of course, last night, one of the more epic finishes to any regular season possible with Steelers and Ravens. Let's just start there. What do you make of just not just the field goal, but the finish to that game, the flurry, the back and forth? How remarkable was that to watch?
It's one of those things. It was TBD until the last minute, right?
Yeah.
Feeling a little meta show reference. I think it was crazy. I mean, that game was a slugfest. It was Steelers Ravens. Everything you expect from those two teams. Even before all the insane scoring in the fourth quarter, 2 touchdowns each from those two teams, it was like still a great game for the NFL on a Sunday night, even if it was a little bit sluggish. And then all of a sudden, all hell broke loose. Aaron Rodgers had multiple chances, it felt like, to sort of, imprint his mark. And then Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers just ripped it right back out of his hands. And you get the Chris Boswell close-up shots after he misses that extra point. His first one since like 2023. And immediately followed by, it felt like when they got Tyler Loop into range that it was going to be, and then they were like, it's a 44-yarder. It was like, ooh, 44-yarder in this stadium if you're a rookie. And sure enough, it goes wide right. If you got Aaron Rodgers kind of like tearing up and about to cry at the end of a game, it was probably pretty intense. And I guarantee that the ratings, for that Week 18 finale, which is what the NFL shoots for when it schedules those games on Sunday, will reflect exactly like just sort of the intensity of what we saw in the field.
It had everything you want. To your point, these huge franchises, these massive star quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, and then a game decided on a final play, which often happens in the NFL. And that was truly remarkable to watch play out. Going back a day earlier to San Francisco's missed opportunity, and Seattle played very well, although left points out. I mean, they left San Francisco in this game all night long, seemingly. Yeah. Does San Francisco now have a path? The path was right there. This becomes so much more challenging. Can they do it with the path they now have in front of them or not?
They can, because they have an offense that is capable of putting up like 40 points on any given week. But I think the problem is you've got, whether it's the Eagles or the Seahawks or even the Rams to a degree, and the Rams defense not nearly as good as those other two, you now have to you're probably going to have to be pretty perfect on offense, because, the defense I thought the defense played pretty well. All things considered, like all the guys that they've lost throughout the year. But Seattle was opening up holes, and they were down a couple of offensive linemen, and they were just opening up holes in that run game. And so there's just no room for error for that offense at any point. You have to go out as the 6th seed now, which means unless something just insane happens, you have to basically play every game on the road. If you end up playing Seattle, they're going to have a bye. It just becomes so much harder to play these tough defenses in the postseason if you're San Francisco, when you kind of have to know that you can't match what they can do on defense, and you really just have to win by outscoring the other team. And so like that to me is the big problem. It's like if you had that week to rest and you knew that you could, you got to go to Philly and beat this great Philly defense. First off, and if you do that, then you probably have to go to Seattle and beat that great Seattle defense just because of the way, unless Carolina pulls off an upset. You know what I'm trying to say. Like, unless you get total breaks in the wild card, I was treating Carolina as a 17th because they're 8-9. Unless everything breaks your way, you're gonna have to win multiple games in a row against really good defenses, and I think that might be too much to ask for the Niners.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. Will Brinson, CBS Sports, with us right now on Jon and Jim. So let's turn our attention to these 6 games this weekend between Saturday and Monday. I guess, which of them are you most looking forward to? Just quickly in the NFC: Packers, Bears, Niners, Eagles, Rams, Panthers, AFC, Chargers, Patriots, Bills, Jags, Steelers, Texans. Which is most intriguing maybe coming up this weekend?
I think Bills Jags is kind of the most intriguing, not just because it's on CBS and Paramount Plus. Josh Allen's been gifted this Mahomes-free playoff run, this opportunity to a Mahomes-free playoff. Jacksonville, and it's like, okay, Jacksonville's defense has been really good, and their offense has been awesome. Trevor Lawrence has a playoff win in his career, that crazy comeback against the Chargers, so he's experienced. But it's like, can the Jags manage to take, because if you take the Bills out, like you take the Bills out of the playoffs, and all of a sudden, Herbert with no offensive line, Drake May playing in his first playoffs. You have, of course, the Broncos who have a great defense, but Bo Nix playing in his first playoffs. You have Rodgers and like CJ Stroud, but I don't think either of those offenses terrify you. It's like, take out the Bills and everything is on the table for the Jaguars. But as a reward for this incredible season, somehow that you got sniped by the Patriots and the Broncos in terms of seeding, you do have to play the best quarterback in football, the reigning MVP, and a guy who absolutely is aware of what's at stake for him in a year where the Chiefs didn't make the playoffs. So I think it's like that game to me really makes or breaks the AFC bracket, because if Josh Allen gets through, it changes everything for everybody else. And if you're the Jaguars and you knock Josh Allen out, all of a sudden you really feel like you have a legitimate chance at the Super Bowl, with this former number 1 overall pick who's playing the best football of his career and a first-year head coach. Which I never even considered. Maybe that's my bad, but the idea of Jacksonville in the Super Bowl, even putting together this great year, it's just, I don't know, you almost don't even consider it, but I guess that is at least a possibility depending on. Yeah. Well, it's kind of amazing to think about. All right, so today traditionally, let's not forget we got the when Ohio State wins the national title the year before, which they did last year, obviously, and then J-Lo gets divorced. When those two things happen in the same year, the Panthers have been to the Super Bowl every year, and the Panthers have to play the Jaguars in Week 1. When those 3 things happen, the Panthers have been to the Super Bowl every year, and it would be also, I think, 30 years. The 30-year. Is it 30 years or 31 years? It's some kind of anniversary of like the Panthers and Jaguars coming into the NFL. Maybe it's 31, but still, you get the point. Like these two like expansion franchises meeting in the Super Bowl would be hilarious. Yeah, don't give me that. Give me anything but that. Truthfully, I think everybody agrees. Everybody agrees. Will Brinson with us right now. All right, traditionally a Black Monday in the NFL. We've seen some firings. There were already a couple of vacancies. Which is the best of these jobs that are currently open in the NFL? I think it's a good question. I guess it depends on your evaluation of Jackson Dart or Michael Penix, right? Okay, and then you could also make the case like Mendoza out of Indiana. The problem with the Raiders is they had the number 1 overall pick. It's insane that this is the first time they had the number 1 overall pick since Jamarcus Russell in 2007. Like they've been a terrible franchise for years, and they just have never gotten the number 1 overall pick. I think if you love Jackson Dart, then the Giants is probably the answer. The problem is, well, I guess it's not necessarily a problem, but like Joe Shane, you have this thing the Giants did where they didn't get rid of the GM. And so they're bringing in a coach at a different time with the GM who's already on the hot seat. if you're not great in your first year, then there might be a new GM who's coming in. You don't know if you're gonna be able to pick him or not, and so like there's always sort of like layers to a power struggle there. I think Atlanta you can make a pretty good case for because Raheem Morris, added some pieces on defense with their pass rush. They have A.J. Terrell on the back end. And then, of course, you have Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. And, we'll see what happens. Especially we think Cousins is going to move on. But you have Penix, who hadn't been healthy dating back to college, but is, a top pick who was widely regarded. And so I think I would lean towards Atlanta. The Browns are the Browns. You got to deal with that. Arizona, you're stepping into a job where you're competing against Mike McDaniel, Sean McVay, and Kyle Shanahan every year for the next decade plus minimum, which good luck with that. You don't know what the quarterback situation is. And then, the Titans still rebuild. If you love Cam Ward, maybe you could talk yourself into that. But I think, Atlanta is probably the answer, especially in a division where they just tied for first and fired their coach.
Yeah, I like the way you broke that down. I mean, it is an interesting break. There's certain jobs you just don't win in. Cleveland, the Cardinals, like you said. I mean, good luck. Again, could you pop up occasionally and have a year? I guess, but can you consistently win in some of these spots? It's just more challenging.
Well, and the same thing you could apply to the Raiders too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You've got to coach against Andy Reid, Jim Harbaugh, and Sean Payton for at least the next 5 years. I mean, good luck with that.
Well, we're looking forward to this weekend. Appreciate you taking time for us, and let's catch up again when we've got these divisional matchups set.
Sounds good. See you next week.
All right, we will continue our conversation about Week 18 into the wild card weekend. Plus, we'll hear from B.J. Davis. He starred for the Aztecs in that triple overtime win over Boise State. You'll hear our post-game conversation. Plus, what was Chris Bassett's cryptic tweet all about? The veteran starter who put together a very good year. Is it potentially tied to the Padres? We'll get into that at 5 p.m. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760. All right, John with Brent. San Diego Sports 760 here until 6 p.m. Wishing everyone a happy new year back here on San Diego Sports 760. We're going to discuss a possible starting pitching option for the Padres at 5 p.m. A very cryptic tweet from Chris Bassett, who put together a really nice year last year with the Blue Jays, who almost won the World Series, almost being the key word. But sub 4 ERA, threw like 170 plus innings. And he put something out that has people kind of scratching their heads. And we'll discuss that coming up in about 10 or so minutes. But Saturday night, this epic Aztec win in triple overtime over Boise State. BJ Davis with the shot of the season so far for the Aztecs. He had a steal in the backcourt and then hit a 3 at the buzzer to force a second overtime. BJ Davis joined me post-game, and here's that conversation.
What a game. It had everything collectively as a team and individually as a player. How did you manage the highs and lows as a team and individually to come out on top in this game?
I think we just adopted the next play mentality. You know, a few plays that we could have sealed the game with, we didn't make. So we just had to move on to the next play and get our opportunity.
What was it about the start? You led 42-18 in this game. I think at one point you held Boise without a field goal for 8 minutes. You were spreading the floor. You were having success offensively. What allowed the early success in the first half to build the lead?
I think just our intensity. We had great intensity on both sides of the floor, and it kind of dropped off second half. So we got to work on that, coming out with fire.
You know, this game, I'm trying to think. It felt as if, Boise down 21 at the half, they come back, and it feels like you're kind of holding them off at the end of regulation. When a regulation ends or a first overtime ends, what is that like in the huddle as you're trying to resetting yourself and putting everything behind you? What's that like as a player?
It's kind of like boxing when you go to your corner. So, go to your corner, get your water, listen to the coach, and then go out there and try to execute as best you can.
LC Harrington tonight, I think he had 4 points at the half, maybe 5. He finished with 20 overall, so he had 15 in the second half or overtime, including before your plays. Your plays, of course, wouldn't have mattered if not for the 3 he hit in the left wing with about 10 seconds left. What are you seeing for LC's a true freshman? Mm-hmm. You've been in his shoes. What are you seeing from him right now?
Man, he's amazing. Just to be able to do what he's doing and to provide what he's providing for our team, it's just truly amazing. And he's a true freshman. And I actually knew LZ from high school.
Did you?
And he was like that in high school, so it's no surprise to me.
What's it been like for you to get more of the ball in your hands as the point? You were playing it the final handful of minutes against San Jose State. You played it briefly earlier this year. We've seen it throughout your career. We saw it a lot here tonight. How confident and comfortable are you feeling right now in that role?
I'm feeling pretty confident and comfortable. Definitely just got to, cut my turnovers down. A few plays down the stretch, just mindless plays that I made. So just eliminate those, play more solid, and I'm confident though, comfortable.
I'm thinking in the third overtime. I don't even know how we got there. I forgot what happened in the second overtime. You guys had a 5-point lead. They scored the last 5 points. How, I forget. But in the third overtime, they scored the first 5. To me, one of the biggest plays in the third overtime. Tell me if you know where I'm going here. Jeremiah Oden, wasn't he? He hit the straight on 3, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. At the top of the key.
He made some big plays. I mean, you needed everyone. Obviously,
everybody.
Tay was out. Yep. Then Farrow was under the weather. Dutch was talking about.
Right.
Can you talk about just? Sometimes we've talked about the depth, almost too much depth. Tonight, you needed the depth to win this game.
Yeah, we needed it. Everybody stepped up in their moment. Everybody stepped up, hit a big shot, or got a big rebound, or made a big stop. So it took everybody, all 5.
What's it mean for the confidence of this team? It's still so early. You're heading to Reno to take on a 3-0 Nevada team at Elevation come Tuesday night. What does this mean for the team to win a game like this?
It just shows that we have grit, and if we put our minds in the right place, then we can come out on top. But it's just a matter of collectively staying together through the highs and lows, like you said. Mm-hmm. And if we keep doing that, then I think we'll be in good shape.
Are you feeling the progress? Are you feeling the kind of the ball move forward, so to speak, as the season progresses?
Definitely. Yeah. Just from everybody.
Yeah. It seems like that.
Everybody's picking their level up.
22 points, BJ. Incredible game. Dutch, I don't know exactly what Dutch said post-game. Is like, you're not going to see someone play a better game than BJ Davis played tonight, essentially, is what Brian Dutcher said post-game. So congratulations, BJ. Enjoy it with your teammates. We'll see you in Reno. All
right, so that was BJ Davis post-game. San Diego State is en route for Reno, Nevada. Now, here's something I need to do, Brent, tomorrow, and it's board the plane because I'm on an early morning flight for Reno. It's not that early, actually. I think it's 8:15 in the morning, And I can't be missing that. I missed my flight to San Jose last week, and there were a lot of flights to San Jose after that. I don't know how many flights there are to Reno, so I'm going to get to the gate. I'm going to be staring at the gate attendant. I'm going to be looking at that door that goes to the plane, whatever that is. You know, that
the
little
tarmac thing.
Yeah, a little thing that you navigate down before you get onto the plane. And I'm going to make sure when they call my boarding number or whatever letter, I get on the plane when they do that.
I wouldn't even sit in a chair.
Just stay nimble.
No, you know how like sometimes you see a lot with like kids or younger people, they'll want like that phone charger like in the corner.
Yeah.
So they'll sit on the floor because there's no
right.
chairs by the charger. Just sit right by the doorway. Just sit over there on the floor by the thing. So you can't miss everybody getting on the plane. Even if you're, very invested in whatever podcast you're
That's
listening.
the thing.
And
Well, you gave me some really good advice that I will now always follow because I had both AirPods in, which was very dumb because the noise canceling, they're not messing around. It cancels noise.
Well, dude, even with like, I bought new, I got J Labs out of the thing for like walking my dog. I have to put just one earbud in when I'm walking my dog because otherwise,
You're like get hit by a car.
Well, that too, but I'd have like neighbors and stuff that would be like, "Oh, hey guys," and I would just like act like a jerk because I didn't hear them.
Yeah, not
I couldn't hear.
intentionally. Yeah, you're not. So, yeah, I'm now bothered by this for the rest of time that I just sat at the gate, didn't get on the plane left. Now, fortunately, everything worked out. I mean, imagine the worst case. Like I don't get on the plane, then I don't make it for the game.
At least it wasn't the team plane.
Oh, that would have been awful.
Because then you'd never hear the end of it.
Imagine that. The whole team boards the plane and I don't. I mean, that's unbelievable to think about. But I'll head to Reno tomorrow morning. I'll be with you tomorrow afternoon for a couple of hours. I think Jonathan Rifkin will be in for a couple of hours tomorrow as well. And then we've got Aztec basketball tomorrow night. Late start, 8 p.m. in Reno with pregame coverage at 7 p.m. with Ben Fletcher right here on San Diego Sports 760.
We have back-to-back 8 o'clock tips. So Saturdays 8 o'clock too.
All right. Yeah, that's going to be some late nights. That's going to be some very late nights for us. All right. On the other side, again, a cryptic tweet from a starting pitcher that's a free agent in baseball. How is this tied to the San Diego Padres, if at all? And it could be. We will discuss that on the other side. Also, still ahead, we'll get to Brent's back page in the final hour. We're going to do that coming up in the final hour. No giveaways today. Hopefully we'll have some more later in the week. But again, San Diego State in Reno tomorrow at 8 p.m. Our pregame coverage will begin at 7 p.m. And again, if you missed anything postgame, you can find BJ Davis you just heard. I had Brian Dutcher postgame. You can find that on the iHeartRadio app. We'll get back to Wildcard Weekend in the NFL in the 5 o'clock hour. Padres quest for more free agents starting pitching potentially. Again, this cryptic tweet, what does it all mean? And we'll get back to the Aztecs. Final hour on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app is next.
This report is sponsored by Unbound.org. San Diego State is back on the road tomorrow night when they take on Nevada. Our pregame coverage begins at 7 o'clock. John will have the tip after 8. It was Black Monday in the NFL today as 5 teams gave their head coaches the axe. Arizona, Vegas, Cleveland, and Atlanta all fired their head coaches. They joined the Titans and the Giants, who fired their head coaches earlier in the season. Arizona's basketball team held on to the number 1 spot over by a single point over Michigan in the AP Top 25, making it one of the closest races in the 78-year history of the poll. The Wildcats got 32 of 61 first place votes, while the Wolverines scooped up the rest. And there's just a 1-point difference, keeping it from being only the second time in the history of the poll that there was 2 teams tied for number 1. And the only other time that happened was in 1981 when Oregon State and Virginia shared the top spot. Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. Let's see how far your support can go at unbound.org.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, final hour here on San Diego Sports 760, live on the iHeartRadio app. And we'll start it with a cryptic Chris Bassett tweet with Major League Baseball free agency obviously well underway. So who is Chris Bassett? He is a veteran starting pitcher that last year with the Blue Jays had a good year. He made 32 starts. He threw 170 innings, and he struck out 166 batters. All told, a 3.96 ERA in a tough division of pitching. You're talking about Yankee Stadium, Hitter's Yard, Fenway Park, Camden Yards. I mean, Skydome is a good hitter's yard. So pitching with the Blue Jays, had a better than 2 WAR, had a 3.96 ERA. A guy that's logged a ton of innings in his career. He's made 30 plus starts in 4 straight years. He's made 27 plus starts in 5 straight years. His career numbers are very good, and he is a free agent. So why do we bring him up? Because of this. He took to X on Sunday and he posted a GIF of 2 fighter jets from Top Gun. That was it. So 2 fighter jets on Top Gun from Chris Bassett, and he put the word me, and underneath the fighter jets it says "Let's ride." So all of a sudden people are kind of putting 2 and 2 together. I mean, here's a free agent. You just put fighter jets from Top Gun. Obviously Top Gun is tied to San Diego as much as any other city since it's filmed in San Diego, right? And referenced in San Diego. So is he implying San Diego? Now, here's the issue. This was yesterday. There's been no news since that cryptic tweet from Chris Bassett. Now, here's what's interesting as well. I think it was, where was this? MLB.com? MLB.com called the Padres a perfect fit. They wrote that even after bringing back Michael King, the Padres have to figure out a way to not only piece together the innings to get through the 2026 season, but also to fight for a playoff spot. And they talk about Cease going to Toronto and Yu Darvish being sidelined. The trade last year that sent Ryan Berger and Stephen Kolek to Kansas City. Joe Musgrove's obviously working back from Tommy John. And MLB.com writes a big ticket free agent solution would seem unlikely. And while you could never rule out AJ Preller pulling off a significant trade, signing Chris Bassett would make a lot of sense as an alternative. And that does make sense to me. I mean, Bassett, more of a, an older pitcher than when they signed Nick Pivetta, for example, last year. But, a guy coming off a similar year to like Pivetta's 2024. He had that ERA over 4. And then he gets here and the numbers get way better. Like he put together a really quality 2025 season, and he did it relatively on the cheap when you look at starting pitching in baseball. Like it's hard to find a starting pitcher that's going to be towards the front of your rotation and to do it for less than, 15 to 20 a year. And that's what they got last year, Nick Pivetta, because Pivetta last year was only paid like $1 million. Now this year he's going to be a 20 plus, but that's a bargain deal. That is a complete bargain deal. Now I don't know what Bassett's going to command in free agency, but it's going to be a short contract. He's about to turn 37. He's turning 37 later in February. The year he just had, let's see, he was making 22 last year. So, you're going to have to pay Chris Bassett in the low 20s, at least you'd think, on a 1-year deal. But that's kind of the cost of starting pitching right now. And the Padres need starting pitching. So give me the other options. I mean, I guess the other options are you could trade for it. You can go more, value bin hunting and find someone for less than that, a guy coming off a worse year than Chris Bassett. But this is the issue right now that AJ Preller's dealing with. And I think maybe John Seidler and the Padres in general are dealing with. It's like, you can try to go cheap. Another word for cheap is creative. You can try to go creative, which just means cheap, but you're going cheap, but you already bought like the Lambo. Like you're pulling up to the cheap house, but you've got the nice car. You got Machado, you got Bogarts, you got Tatis, right? So how creative do you really want to get when it comes to winning right now?
I was just going to say, I'm going to use that the next time a chick tells me I'm cheap. I'm just like, no, I'm not.
You're creative.
I'm creative.
You're creative, exactly. So, I mean, it's not a knock. I mean, the Padres are going to be, in the top 10, 11 in payroll, probably. And they could go over the luxury tax number. And I think if the season started right now, they're over the luxury tax number. So it's not to fully knock the Padres. It's not. They aren't, as an organization, cheap. They have not been in the 2020s. I mean, they weren't under Peter Seidler, and I wouldn't call them, even frugal right now. They haven't been. The issue is they haven't spent the money the most wisely, potentially. And I think we can all sympathize with that. We've all, gotten a paycheck and said, probably best to put it towards the, down payment on the home or to the mortgage or to the car payment. But you're like, but I really want to, buy this, box of 2026 Topps Chrome. Is that wise? That's probably not the wisest decision to buy a box of 2026 Topps Chrome, which is like $700. Or maybe it's not the wisest to, go out for a night with friends and spend $150 when you probably should have spent $15 on dinner or whatever it is. But we can all sympathize with it. And it's a little bit like where the Padres are. It's like they spent, and you give them credit for spending, but like after all that spending, it's like, can they continue to spend? And we used to say, you've heard Jim say this a lot, like it's not our money. Yeah, but the issue is they don't have unlimited money. They just don't. There's very few teams that can continue to go back to the credit card and pay it off later. Like the Dodgers have been that team. Obviously, historically, teams like the Mets, obviously the Yankees, the Red Sox, there's teams that have been that team. And I think the Padres were briefly that team under Peter Seidler where they had a top 2 or 3 payroll. Right now, we should probably be thankful that they're a top, 8, 10 payroll, because it could be worse. They could be 22nd or 24th in payroll. Anyway, it's a long way of me saying that I think Chris Bassett, yes, it's not the cheapest, might cost 20 plus for a year, but you could use him right now. Cease gone. Darvish injured. King back, but again, coming off injury where he only made 15 starts last year. Joe Musgrove back, yes, but coming off injury, he didn't pitch last year because of Tommy John. You're probably he checks the boxes of what you're looking for. You're looking for this veteran pitcher that has pitched in important games, that is coming off a good year, and he's checking all those boxes. He really is, because last year, sub-4 ERA with 31 starts. He's obviously pitched in the postseason. Shoot, he pitched in the World Series this past year. I don't know what his numbers were in the World Series this past year. I could find it. 6 innings, 1 run against the Dodgers this past World Series in 5 games in relief. And in the ALCS, he went 2 2/3 innings, didn't allow a run. Like he's appeared in the postseason, did so in the 2022 postseason with the Mets. That was the year that the Padres beat the Mets, right? Yeah, in the wild card series. So he made a start in that series, went 4 innings, allowed 3 runs. He's pitched in the postseason before with the Athletics. So, he's got a lot of service time. He's got a lot of experience. He's got some postseason experience, and he's been good. And here's the other thing. He's been reliable. Like when you make 30 plus starts in 4 consecutive seasons in the major leagues, like that's not easy. The guys that have done that are guys like Dylan Cease. And Dylan Cease was coveted, and he got the $200 million. As good as Michael King was in 2024, unfortunately, he couldn't replicate that in 2025. He couldn't stay healthy. Some of that's outside, that's unpredictable. Like staying healthy is not fully a controllable thing. But listen to that. This is the last 5 years for Chris Bassett in terms of innings pitched. 2021, 157. All right, serviceable. Not a massive number, but serviceable. And then from there on, it gets good. 2022 with the Mets, 182. 2023 with the Blue Jays, 200 on the nose. That's a huge season. 2024, 171. and then 2025, 170. If you could sign me up right now for 170 innings out of Chris Bassett and a sub-4 ERA for $20 million or fewer for next year, like where do I sign up? That's a dream scenario, I think, for AJ Preller and the Padres. And again, you pair Bassett with King, Pivetta, Musgrove, this bullpen, and you're working with something. But you still need that next best starter. Again, they've re-signed Michael King, great. They've got Nick Pivetta back, terrific. We're excited about Joe Musgrove. There's some other options, obviously, towards the back of the rotation that we've talked about this year or this offseason as well. But Chris Bassett, to me, and if it's not Chris Bassett, it doesn't have to be Chris Bassett, but someone like Chris Bassett makes sense, right? Like one of these veteran starters that has been through it, that is capable of making 30 starts, they can give you 170 plus innings, can do it for an affordable number. It doesn't have to be cheap, but it has to be affordable. And that's checking boxes. So, like, what is he talking about? Something else? Is Chris Bassett talking about something else when he just randomly takes the X and puts me and it's 2 Top Gun fighter jets? Like, is he just randomly saying that as a free agent? Maybe. I mean, maybe he's just talking to buddies and just watched the movie and really liked it. Or maybe talking about the Padres and he said, let's ride. But it's kind of interesting. He was sending that out 24 hours ago and we get no news over the like no, not even news, not like officially announced by the Padres, but no reporting. Like I don't know if anyone's reporting on the Chris Bassett free agent market. I read to you what MLB.com had to say, and MLB.com said Padres are a good fit. And I think that the deeper dive that I've done here over the last 20 minutes leads me down that same path, which is Chris Bassett would maybe be a good fit for the San Diego Padres. All right. We started the day talking about the Padres. If you missed Mike Shildt earlier, we'll play some of that for you coming up. Again, the Aztecs coming off this epic triple overtime win over Boise State this past weekend. San Diego State's got Nevada coming up tomorrow, a pair of 3-0 teams in the Mountain West, a true Mountain West showdown. And we'll get into that this hour as well. And of course, the NFL postseason, the wild card matchups are set, and we can delve deeper into those coming up this hour as well. We'll get to Brent's back page in about 30 minutes. We're here until 6 p.m. Don't go anywhere. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, back with you. San Diego Sports 760. Brent's back page still ahead. We had Will Brinson with us at 4:30, our NFL insider. So let's look at these 6 games wild card weekend. By the way, 4-hour solo show, not a great idea. Doing the Aztec games and traveling the country and doing a 4-hour broadcast Saturday and trying to preserve my voice, not a good idea. Not that anyone thought it was. Okay, let's get into these 6 games, bro. This is the amazing line. Panthers, Rams in Carolina, right? Panthers go 8-9, win their division. There's very little outrage about that. Everyone wants to freak out about Tulane and JMU. Very little outrage about the Panthers. The Rams are 10.5-point favorites on the road. That is such a massive line for a team on the road to be favored by. Whatever, they won their division. That's maybe a topic for another day. I mean, there is no world where the Panthers win this game, right?
No.
They just should not. The Rams had a great year. We're in every game they played by and large. Like, the Panthers should have no business being in this game. Now, 10.5 is massive because you could lead like 34-17 all game and then there's a backdoor cover somewhere in there. But I'm sorry. I'd be shocked if the Panthers won that game. All right, so there's your first playoff game of Wild Card Weekend. Then we've got the Prime Video game that Brent will be intently watching. Bears-Packers for a third time in Chicago, where the Bears are just a 1.5-point favorite over the 9-7-1 Packers.
Which that changed because I was talking to Sammy when I got in today.
Yeah, what was it?
Green Bay was favored by like almost 3 to start, and then it just switched within like a 3-hour period.
All right, so that is swung, but the Bears are favored by 1.5. You said earlier you don't feel great. Now, you said you didn't feel good about the chances of the Bears getting to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Because of the riverboat gambling aspect of...
Well, I never feel great about them playing the Packers. Honestly, I would have been better off. I would have felt better if we would have ended up playing the Niners, to be honest.
I get it.
Just because we've got so much history of
course,
everything that could go wrong does go wrong when we play Green Bay. You know, we could have the greatest defense in the world, but as soon as, you know, we play Green Bay, every receiver is like 15 yards, nobody around him. So I'm kind of worried about that. And Jordan Love's been sitting.
Weren't the 2 regular season games in the second half of the year? They had like the 2 games in 3 weeks or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
What happened? They lost at Green Bay and they won in Chicago?
They lost in Green Bay in the last play of the game because Caleb got picked off on the last play, and then they won on the last in overtime.
Yeah. All right. So maybe that's why it's a 1-point spread, because it's expected to be a close game. Then Will Brinson talked about this game. I mean, the Bills are at the Jags went 13-4. That's an amazing year. They were alive for the 1 seed as recently as yesterday. Now they're taking on the Bills, who went 12-5. Not too shabby either. The Bills are favored in Jacksonville by 1.5, and I'll be honest with you, I expected it to be maybe a little more because of the faith in Josh Allen and the recognition that, like, if you don't do it now, when will you do it with Mahomes not in the postseason? But Buffalo by 1.5. This to me is a fascinating game. I wonder what the repercussions are on the other side if the Bills don't win the game. Like, what's the fallout from the Buffalo perspective if the Bills don't win the game? But Trevor Lawrence had a great year, threw for over 4,000 yards. Jags are at home. If that means anything, I'm sure it'll be all Bills fans. But Buffalo minus 1.5. I feel quasi confident in the Bills. Like, not confident, but like 55-45 that the Bills should find a way.
The Bills have just, out of all the teams that are there, they've been there before.
Yep.
You know, the Broncos, they don't really have any playoff experience. I guess the Steelers kind of do because of Rodgers, but the Texans have a little bit. But, you know, this Patriots group, they don't really have any playoff experience because they haven't been in a while. The Chargers have some, but not enough that I think it would give them any advantage. Do you think the Chargers or any of these teams are going to regret sitting in week 8, sitting this week?
Well, I think the Chargers will just regret their injuries. Like, I don't think the Chargers, as we fast forward, I'm glad you actually went there. Well, first, we'll get to Chargers Patriots. I don't see them winning. I do not see the Chargers going across the country. I know the spread's only 3 or 4 points. To me, that'd be very surprising if they won the game. Now, San Francisco, I'd be less surprised if San Francisco won in Philadelphia than the Chargers winning in New England, but the line is actually bigger for the Eagles. It's 4.5 than it is for the Patriots, which is 3.5. The Eagles were like, here's how I would summarize the regular season. It's fine. They have a good defense. Their offense left so much to be desired. They were fine at home. They went 5-3. They weren't good. And the Niners went 7-2 on the road. They were 12-5 overall. Now, they did not play a hard schedule, and they've had all these injuries. I think the thing that holds back the Niners ultimately is probably their health. And you're taking on a team that has a good defense on the road. But would you be surprised if the Niners won on Sunday? I don't think I would.
No, just because, like we said, the Eagles in the regular season were kind of hit or miss. They would either come out and be like, oh, hey, the Eagles are back, or they'd come out and, just blow games like the Bears game, when they played, was over Thanksgiving or Christmas, whatever it was, that holiday weekend, when the Bears just blew them out and nobody saw that coming. So it kind of just depends on which team shows up. And, Jalen Hurts hasn't really been consistent this year. And, I don't know. I don't trust the Eagles, but like you said, the Niners, they're just so beat up.
Up.
And, and they've been winning in spite of all the injuries. Yep. But how much longer can that go on?
Yeah, exactly. Against good teams.
They've been, what is it? What is it in blackjack when you like double down? They've been doubling down for like weeks, and sooner they're about to bust sooner or later.
I feel like they pulled some, like, again, the cliches, like rabbits out of hats to win some of these games. We're finally caught up to them against a really good team in Seattle. And I don't know if Philadelphia, Seattle, in fact, they haven't had that year, but you're going to Philadelphia. That's a tough venue, environment, defense, weather. Yeah, it's a tough game. Chargers, Pats, just the Chargers don't win games like this historically. They don't travel, win on the road in the postseason. I mean, they have occasionally won a game or two like this in a wild card round. Yes, you have Jim Harbaugh now, but New England had a historic year, right? I mean, just out of nowhere, seemingly 14-3 overall. It's going to be 30 degrees on Sunday night. I'd be surprised. Is what I would say. And then we have Monday night, where the Steelers, again, they win the division. They get to 10-7. They're hosting the Texans, who are 3-point favorites. I love the Steelers in that spot, at least in terms of covering. Steelers at home, again, it's going to be 20 degrees or 30 degrees. It's going to be Monday night. I mean, Houston had a great regular season, but it's still Steelers at home. I wouldn't feel overly confident in that. Maybe the Texans can find a way to win a close game. I like the idea of taking the Steelers plus the points. It just feels right. Like, does it feel right that the Steelers are going to lose at home to the Houston Texans? Doesn't to me.
Coming from just like a gambling perspective, the only spread that I would feel comfortable with is the Rams 10.5.
You would lay the 10.5.
Yeah, because I don't think the Panthers are going to stick around. But all the other games, I could see them going either way. I could see, Steelers, Texans, I could see it going either way. Jags, Bills, I could see it going either way. Pretty much all these games, with the exception of the Panthers and the Rams, I could see going either way.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. I mean, there's some like small numbers in there, like we talked about, like the point spreads in Bears, Packers, or Eagles, Niners, right? Or Texans, Steelers, or Chargers, Patriots. Like, there's some 3-point numbers, 1 point. I mean, they're expecting 4 or 5 very good games. The only game that's not expected to be close, again, is that first game of the weekend with the Rams traveling to Carolina. All right, we're going to hear from Mike Shildt, former Padres manager, on the other side. What he said was the best part of his job late last year. Somewhat surprising. Plus, Brent's back page is coming up as well. We are here until 6 p.m. Don't go anywhere. San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by the Positive Coaching Alliance. The Aztecs are on the road tomorrow night when they take on Nevada. Our pregame coverage begins at 7:00. John will have the tip after 8. In NFL news, it was Black Friday today as 4 teams gave their head coaches the axe. Arizona, Vegas, Cleveland, and Atlanta all fired their head coaches. They joined the Titans and the Giants, who fired their head coaches earlier in the season. And in a note of almost ironic, it's pretty ironic, former Falcons coach Raheem Morris, who was just fired, he's got an interview to be the Titans' next head coach. So he did such a horrible job in Atlanta that he's going to get a job in Tennessee. Go figure. In college football news, Georgia will have to replace its leading pass catcher and tackler in 2026 after Zachariah Branch and linebacker CJ Allen both announced today that they are entering the 2026 NFL draft. Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national nonprofit, offers more than 1,000 free online resources for youth and high school sports coaches, parents, students, and administrators. Visit pcadevzone.org.
All right, back with you, San Diego Sports 760. We all remember that one teacher made a difference, who believed in us, challenged us, or just made learning fun. Now's your chance to say thank you to Big Way with iHeartRadio's Thank a Teacher, powered by Donors Choose. Nominate an outstanding public school teacher who's gone above and beyond for their students to win $5,000 to stock their classroom with whatever they need. Help us say thank you to the educators shaping our future. Nominate your favorite teacher now at iHeartRadio.com/teachers. All right, here until 6. Well, Brent's back page coming up. We started the show, or at least towards the beginning of the show, we talked about what Mike Shildt said on a podcast within the last 24 hours. It was somewhat interesting because it allows you some insight in terms of where he was, like from a mind frame perspective late last year. Because remember, he walks away just a few days after the season. They win 90 games. He walks away. He says he's retiring. I guess he retired as the manager of the Padres because he returned in player development with the Baltimore Orioles. But this was Mike Shildt. This is about a minute and a half or so on what was the most enjoyable part of the last couple of months in his time as a manager for the Padres.
You know, for about 5 minutes every day, the last several months of the season, I got a chance to work with Louis Rise at first base. And it was the best 5 minutes of my day. And I had a really great opportunity with great guys, and I want to minimize that I didn't enjoy it. But my point being is, when I stepped back and decided I wanted to do something more back into the teaching side of it, the relational side of it, because you don't get a chance to teach it almost at all as a manager in the big leagues. You do establish big picture relationships, but it's hard to get as granular in people's lives. So when I stepped back, the opportunity that I was looking for presented itself. And, you know, my faith is strong, and I believe that, you know, God put me in this spot for a reason. But and I get to do it with a team that I grew up with. I grew up in the AA clubhouse of the Baltimore Orioles. And when Baltimore called and said, this was are you sincere about this? About you're going to go and be willing to go be an instructor in player development again? Yes, I'm sincere. And then, you know, getting a chance to, and then when Cal Ripken calls, who, you know, listen, Cal's my dude. And, you know, he was there every day in 1980 when I was there in Charlotte. And by the way, played every single game of that year, played third base, and played in every single game. They won the Southern League championship. But now I get to go back and work with, you know, staff that are now growing in their career.
All right. So that was Mike Shildt earlier today on a podcast with some interesting insight into like his mindset. Again, late last year, it was like the best part of my day was working with Luis Ariz at first base. That's probably not what you should be saying if you're going to be long for the job as a manager. So I think there's a couple of things at play. I do think ultimately he enjoys teaching, and I think that was evident in that clip. He's made that clear before. He's been in player development previously. I think he enjoys managing. To what extent is obviously arguable at this point. I mean, his 2 stints were relatively short-lived. He never had that long stay. St. Louis, few years. San Diego, 2 years. He won at both spots. Imagine if he wasn't winning. I mean, he wouldn't have been long for anywhere. So it was surprising. I mean, you go back to the end of this year, and when they lost in Chicago, I wasn't like, oh, Mike Shildt's gone. Not at all. I mean, Mike Shildt is the only manager in the history of the franchise to win 90 games in back-to-back years. Not an old manager by baseball terms. He's in his 60s. If that, right? Is he like 59 or 60? Mike Shildt is not an old manager. A veteran manager. He's been around the sport his whole career. But let's say, like, Mike Shildt was born in August of 68. He's in his 50s. He's in his 50s. He's not 67.
He just looks 67.
He does. He completely does. And he said, I got to worry about my health. He said that. And I respect that and understand that. Although 4 weeks later, he announced he was back in baseball. And he's going to be, driving from, I don't know, Frederick, Maryland to Bowie, Maryland to Charlotte, North Carolina, or wherever the affiliates of the Orioles are.
Maybe coaching the Padres just ages you horribly. It's like being president. Remember how young Obama looked? Yeah. And afterwards he had gray hair.
You go from like 35 to 65 overnight. So listen, I respect it at the end of the day. It's not like he was in a position that he had to maintain for forever. I do think it's added an extra layer of ambiguity for the Padres heading into the year. Like, who is Craig Stammen as a manager? What is that going to look like? What are the tenors of his time, in a dugout? Like, what should we expect to see? I think actually Craig Stammen spoke on this a little bit, 6 weeks ago or whenever it was, and said that a lot of what Mike Shildt was doing, we're going to continue to do, which does make sense because Mike Shildt had success. So I'm not expecting some 180 in the clubhouse. And again, Craig Stammen has deep relationships with a lot of players there. I'm talking about the Manny Machados and the Fernando Tatis Jr.'s. I think he has the respect of a lot of those players. And I think he's a well-respected player in general that has a chance to be successful as a manager, but we don't really know. The thing we knew about Shildt is he had been successful previously. Therefore, that was the expectation. The thing we don't know about Craig Stammen is what type of manager is he going to be? So it's another one of those question marks heading into the year with the Padres. But again, 2025, when I look back on 2025, I don't think it's going to be remembered as some memorable year, even though the Padres won 90 games, which by the franchise's standards is a lofty total. There haven't been a ton of 90-win years. They were in the postseason, which again is where they're trying to get. It all came down to maybe home field or not against the Cubs. They didn't have home field. They could have earned it. Padres did not play well down the stretch. Remember, they were positioned to maybe win the division in late August. I remember we were talking about they were well positioned. They led the Dodgers in August last year, and then they just didn't play well down the stretch, and they didn't play well enough against the Chicago Cubs, and then they made this change. And, again, looking back on it, maybe it makes sense that Mike Shildt walked away. It doesn't sound like he was having the time of his life. Who was that sideline reporter for ESPN who I think from like Denver was talking about, who was he even talking about? The head coach for the Broncos not having the time of his life. You know what I'm talking about, Brent. Remember that? That kind of like infamous clip. But I think with the benefit of hindsight, it wasn't the greatest experience for Mike Shildt in 2025. I think 2024 was a lot more enjoyable than 2025. And you really heard it, I think, in there. In the best 5 minutes of his day was working at first base with Luis Arraez. And that probably means you should step away. So I give him credit for doing it. You don't want to be in a job that you have no desire of being in, especially a job like the one that Mike Shildt was in.
Sergio Dip.
Man, that is a name from the past. Sergio Dip. Who was he talking about?
Vance Joseph.
It was like the opening game of the season on Monday Night Football. This big ESPN hire, and he made the like.
He stated that Joseph was having, quote, the time of his life, which became an instant online meme.
And that was the last we heard of Sergio Dip, right?
Yeah, dude, that was way back in 2017.
I feel like it was before that. Where is Sergio Dip now? Isn't he like maybe a commentator on Mexican television? Like, I would love to know, where are you now, Sergio Dip? Wouldn't you? He's got it. Sergio Dip, according to AI, is still with ESPN as of late 2023, working as a versatile anchor and reporter for ESPN Deportes. That's crazy. That is so crazy. Yeah, I read that viral moment in 2017. I have really not seen him since 2017. So anyway, the Mike Shildt thing is, again, it's nothing really, it's nothing of grave concern what he said there, but I think it gives you a look into his mindset and psyche late in 2025. And now that I put a bow on the entire conversation, it actually makes sense that he would walk away. And I wouldn't want him to come back in 2026 if he wasn't fully committed to the job. Like, if he's just going through the motions and, you know what, 2025 wasn't very fun, but I'm under contract and they're paying me $2 million a year. So let me just do it. And if it goes haywire, who cares? They're still paying me. And if everything goes swimmingly, great, then it'll be a good year. But so I kind of respect that. And we'll see. Now it's Craig Stammen's team, at least for 2026, and hopefully for longer than that. They can't continue to have the turnover in that chair. At some point, you're going to need a 3-year manager. And it's been a while since they've had a 3-year manager in San Diego. So again, we'll see heading into 2026. And with the Padres, if you missed it earlier, we started the show by saying they missed out on some of these Japanese stars this weekend. There were a couple of players that were posted. They didn't get crazy deals. Tatsuya Imai, the pitcher, the 27-year-old, got 3 years, 54 from Houston, but it's just a series of 1-year deals. I think it's reasonable. We're talking about Chris Bassett. He's getting more than that per year, potentially in 2026. And then you had Kazuma Okamoto, who's getting 4 years, 60, which is 15 a year. I don't think it's crazy money for a guy that's hit, 30-plus home runs, I think 4 or 5 consecutive years in Japan. But the Padres elected to pursue other options. Maybe one of those options is Chris Bassett. We'll see. If he's Chris Bassett, we touched on this earlier this hour, sent out a cryptic tweet with Top Gun fighter jets. And we're like, well, what does this mean? This was yesterday, and he's a free agent, and he hasn't signed as of yet. And we'll see if it's San Diego or not. All right. Brent's back page on the other side. I'm heading for Reno in the morning. I'll be with you tomorrow afternoon from Reno, Nevada, from 2 to 4. Jonathan Rifkin will be with you tomorrow afternoon as well. From 4 to 6, we have Aztec basketball tomorrow night. Huge one. San Diego State and Nevada. Tip-off at 8. Pregame coverage at 7. 3-0 San Diego State. 3-0 Nevada in the Mountain West tomorrow night from the Lawler Event Center in Reno. On the other side, we'll get to Brent's back page. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, final time. San Diego Sports 760 back with you tomorrow. Brent and I were just commenting off air. We live in a world where Indiana football is favored to win the national championship, and Nebraska basketball is 15-0. Yeah. And that's exactly where we live. Now it's a new world with rev share and NIL, and it's turned college sports on its head, is what it's done. Like the equivalent. It's just like, this is like living in a world where the Cleveland Browns are the best football team, or the Pittsburgh Pirates are the best baseball team, or the New Orleans Pelicans are the best basketball team, or any Canadian NHL team is the best hockey team because they haven't won a Stanley Cup, I think, since Montreal in 1993. And I think some people despise it. Like the Blue Bloods are like, wait, what? Football is supposed to be Ohio State and Alabama sport. What? Basketball is supposed to be about Michigan State and Duke and North Carolina. And I think other people are enamored by it because you've got fresh blood and you've kind of opened doors. I would just say this, it's just weird. Like, I don't know if Nebraska's ever won an NCAA tournament game. I think they have, but they haven't won many. I know that. If they've won any at all. But like, when you think about every power team in basketball, Nebraska would be at the bottom. And when you think about every power team in the history of college football, Indiana, as of 2 years ago, would have been at the bottom. But with rev share, with resources, with money, these sports have been changed. And they've been changed very quickly, like in the course of 24 months or 36 months. So anyway, Nebraska's 15-0 somehow in college basketball. Oh, by the way, Indiana's 14-0 in football. No team's ever won 16 games in a year. If they beat Oregon, if they beat either Miami or Ole Miss in the national championship game, they'll be favored, by the way, in both games. If they play in both, they're favored against Oregon in Atlanta. They'll be favored against Miami or Ole Miss. I promise you that. They'll be the first team in the history of college football to go 16-0. Crazy times. Crazy times we are living in. All right, I'll be in Reno tomorrow for San Diego State and Nevada basketball. But right now, let's get to this.
All right, we will start with kids these days. Now it's, PlayStation or Xbox is like the big debate. But for you and me, when we were kids, it was
Nintendo and
Sega or Nintendo.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the original co-founders of Sega Games in post-war Japan, I don't know why they keep putting it like that, but they do in the article.
Yeah.
David Rosen, he died today at the age of 95.
Okay.
He was one of the he was in the Air Force, and he was stationed over in Japan, and then he stayed over there and he got into the video games and everything. But he was the pretty much American co-founder for Sega, and I was always more of a Sega guy.
That's how I was.
I had the original Nintendo and a Game Boy, but that was as far as my Nintendo stuff went because I had Genesis.
I had Genesis.
I had Sega Saturn. I had what was the other one?
I don't think Saturn was great, dude.
It was okay. They just didn't make enough games for it. What was the other one? That Dreamcast. Pretty much I bought everything Sega until they stopped making consoles and just went straight to games. So
I thought Genesis was good. After that, it got a little. Oh, what was Sega's Game Boy option?
Oh, Game Gear.
Yeah, Game Gear. That was solid.
I liked Game Gear. It was color. The only thing that sucked was that it went through batteries like a sieve.
Yes.
It would go through like.
I didn't like Nintendo as much as Genesis, but I did like Game Boy.
Yeah, I had a Game Boy. I liked my Game Boy. I played that a lot. So
what's the answer now? Xbox, PlayStation. Like what?
I like PlayStation, and Xbox is, and if I say Xbox, I mean Microsoft. They are almost becoming the new Sega because now Xbox is. The rumor is they're leaning away from making consoles to where they might just become like more of a game developer because it used to be all about like the exclusive games, like you couldn't play Halo on PlayStation. That was a Xbox exclusive. Mm-hmm. But now Xbox has changed a bunch of stuff. So now it's like in like the next 2 or 3 years, we're supposed to get like Halo remasters on PlayStation, and they had, other Xbox exclusives that you can get on PlayStation now. So I think they might be shifting into making more games like what Sega did.
All I care about is the sports games.
Oh yeah, no, I'm waiting for college basketball.
Yeah, give me college basketball. All right, what else you got?
Let's see. At IHOP, you can get all you can eat, or as they say, bottomless pancakes for free with select breakfast combos. So if you get certain breakfast combos, you can get all you can eat pancakes on the side.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So, which that works out because I'll get the thing with the hash browns and eggs and everything, and then I'll get like the 2 pancakes on the side. So now I shouldn't have to pay for them as long as I get certain ones. So,
okay.
And that is running from today through 3:30. So it's going to go on for a couple months.
And that's in Panama.
No, not in this one. Not literally the International House of Pancakes,
right.
But yeah, no, this is.
And this promotion was from June of 2023 through July of 2024. That would be a Jim back page.
And then finally, McDonald's is getting sued over the McRib, as 4 people filed a class action lawsuit claiming that they claim that McDonald's has falsely advertised the McRib sandwich as containing real pork rib meat with its name and distinctive shape. The suit claims that the sandwich is actually made with a hybrid of pork meat parts, including the heart, tripe, and stomach. McDonald's is claiming that these are deceptive omissions and that it was just misleading marketing. So McDonald's is getting sued over the McRib because apparently it contains no McRib.
Dude, well, hold on. I mean, how serious are these lawsuits? When the thing's $7? You see what I'm saying? Like, it's, you know what you're getting when you're going to a fast food restaurant.
Exactly.
You're never gonna get a sirloin steak if they call it the steak combo. Like, it's never gonna be that.
Look, I chalk this up to those same morons. They're like, I don't think my foot long sub from Subway is actually a foot long. Oh my God, it's a millimeter short. Sue them.
Sue for $10 million.
Yeah, or who was the other one? It's like somebody else got sued around the same time as the Subway thing for their sandwiches being like a millimeter short of a foot. So I just chalked it up as one of those. And I'm not a big, I've never even had a McRib, so I don't really care.
That surprises me.
Yeah, but they're caked with onions. Which I could just tell them not to put them on there, but I don't know.
You have anything else?
No.
All right. There's Brent's back page, which we've learned over the last 4 years is better than Jim's. So a significant upgrade over Jim's back page to kick off 2026. Now, here's the deal tomorrow. I'll be traveling to Reno. I will join you from Reno beginning at 2 p.m. So be listening. We've got you covered if you're an Aztec fan. The latest with Major League Baseball free agency, how it involves the Padres, getting you ready for NFL wildcard weekend. So we'll be with you tomorrow at 2 p.m. And then later in the show, I'll be getting ready for the game, and Jonathan Rifkin's going to come in for a couple of hours. So got you covered tomorrow afternoon, San Diego Sports 760, and then I'll be back here Wednesday, back from Reno. Can San Diego State get to 4-0 in the Mountain West? This is I would say their most significant test, because Air Force and San Jose State, you need to win those games. They won those games. Then home for Boise, that's a test, but you're at home. So you're expected to win that game. You're going to be, a small favorite. They were, and they won the game by 3 points. Yeah, it took 3 overtimes, but they won the game by 3 points. This is the first true road test. Real environment, good team at elevation, likely a 1 or 2 point underdog tomorrow in Reno. This is the first true test against a Nevada team that's playing great basketball. They've won 3 consecutive games to start conference play. So great opportunity and a challenge for the Aztecs tomorrow night in Reno against Nevada. 8 p.m. start, 7 p.m. pregame. Again, we'll be on the air at 2 p.m. right here on San Diego Sports 760. If you missed anything today, check out sportssd.com, the iHeartRadio app, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, or Spotify. Again, wishing everyone a happy new year. Great to be back here in 2026. We've got you covered afternoons on San Diego Sports 760 in 2026 and beyond. All right, for Brent, I'm John. Keep it here. This is San Diego Sports 760. See you tomorrow. Peace.